Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting of Thursday, April 14th, 2016. I am Alan Himmelberger, Superintendent of Schools, and one meeting a year I get to open the meeting, as this is the reorganization of the school committee. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the introduction of members.
Steve Tringali from Millville.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Erin Panaco, Millville.
Bill Chaplin, Blackstone.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone.
Dave Thompson, Assistant Superintendent.
And Alan Himmelberger, Superintendent and Chair, just for a few more minutes. So this evening, we have the reorganization and the election of officers. The first in the process is to accept nominations and vote for a chair, and then I will quickly turn the gavel over to that person, who will then call for vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and assistant treasurer, along with legal counsel. So with that being said, I will accept nominations for chair for the upcoming year. Georgette.
I nominate Erin.
Nominated, is there a second?
Second.
Nominated by Georgette, seconded by Wendy. Any other nominations? Hearing none, seeing none, nominations are closed. All in favor of Erin Panaco as chair for next year? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Didn't have to campaign.
Away you go.
You didn't have to campaign, no speeches, no debates, no.
Where's the sign? We want signs.
Can I take this home? I need it on social media later.
Yeah.
All right, so now moving on, looking for a nomination for vice chair. Do we have any?
Nominate Wendy.
Jane is nominating Wendy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. Any other nominations? Okay, and I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm looking for a motion for
Secretary.
secretary for the 2016-2017 year. Georgette?
I nominate Tara.
Second.
No. Motion made by Georgette, seconded by Tara.
Quick second.
Are there any other nominations? All those in favor,
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Unanimous for Tara. And moving on, I'm looking for a nomination for treasurer, treasurer. Why are these on here twice, actually? Sorry, following my list.
It would
It's
be-
duplicated. I'm looking for a nomination for treasurer.
I nominate Jane.
Motion made by Wendy for Jane, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Georgette. Any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. And I'm looking for a motion for the assistant district treasurer, and this is typically our business manager, but we have to make it a formality. So I need a motion for a nomination of the assistant district treasurer.
Nominate Wen Cobb as Assistant Treasurer.
Okay, motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
And second by Jane. All those, sorry, any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. And the last is a motion for district council. to be appointed 2016 to 2017. My only question on this is when we appointed one earlier in the year, was it just through April? I wasn't
have been.
present for that one.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know. So we should just do it as a formality.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking for a motion for district council for the Blackstone Millville Regional School District for the 2016-17 year.
I don't know their names. I nominate them, whoever they, who are they?
And DiPietro.
That's it. Move to nominate Long and DiPietro.
Okay, motion made by Jane for Long and DiPietro, and is there a second?
I'll second that,
Second by Steve.
just because Jane knows the name.
Jane and Steve.
Little
All
guys there.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Long and DiPietro, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So unanimous. Thank you. And now I will be looking for a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of union and non-union negotiations and returning to open session at 7 PM.
So moved.
So I will need a roll call vote. Motion made by Wendy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jane. Steve?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Erin, yes. Bill? No? Jane?
Yes.
Patch? Georgia, thank you.
No word
So
out.
we will return at 7 PM. Back to open session. And next on the agenda is our public forum, and we have a winter sports update. Do you want to pull your chairs that you're in up so we can have a microphone for you? There's a microphone on that table. Yeah.
Oh, hey, wait. Oh, is it sports? Oh, yeah, I'm Taylor.
So if you could just tell us your names and the sport you're here representing. I know we're changing seasons. I love your uniforms.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about the winter sports and, give us a recap of your season. And then we'll definitely move to questions from there, so.
So I'm Sarah DeWolf, and I was co-captain of the BMR girls varsity basketball team this last season.
I'm Taylor McNamara, and I was the other captain of the girls varsity basketball team. Our record was 9-11. We were 1 win away from districts, but I think that says a lot about the hard work we put in, seeing that the year before we were 3-17.
Wow.
We've come a long way since last year. We got a couple of new girls this year, and they turned out to be really helpful throughout the season. And we worked a lot harder. We could tell the practices were more intense than last year, and it really felt like all the girls wanted it this year. And we did, but we left it down to the last couple games. You might have heard about it in North. Lost by 1 with like 3 seconds left. That was tough. What was it, Canton? Canton
by 5.
lost by 5. So
Yeah.
left it to the last game, senior game, and yeah.
So you said you had a few new girls.
Yeah, we had someone transfer from Uxbridge, Aiden, and someone transfer from Leominster. Yeah.
She was big.
She's tall.
So
We
how
also-
many girls were on the team?
That's all you need.
We had 13 in total, I think. That
Wait,
was JV and varsity.
That's JV and
Yeah.
varsity?
We had a lot
Our
of
numbers
swingers.
were very low, but we were still, I think it's not so much as the numbers for this group, it was more of the hard work that each one wanted to put in.
Yeah, we had 1 sub on varsity, I think, like 2 if we were lucky sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
we worked hard.
Don't get hurt.
Yeah, never.
How many
Don't
of those
foul
are
out either.
graduates?
Just me.
Just her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many seniors are on the team now?
You're looking at it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
you're
oh,
looking
that's
at
what you just
now.
said, sorry.
Yeah.
So you had your rebuilding year, so now you're,
Yeah, they're only losing 1, so next
a
year.
big one though.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And are there more coming up? I mean, have you, I know you've done a lot of camps and
Yeah.
town to try to cultivate that, but are there more 8th graders that look like they're excited?
Tons more,
We
yeah.
we hope so. I mean, there's definitely the BBT and the other private schools that are very appealing to them, but we hope that some of them, because of playing on JV with us, I hope that they stay with this program.
How's softball looking?
So far, we're doing all right. We had a game today, obviously. And,
Yeah.
we lost, but right now we're 1-2 in the DVC. So, but we still have like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so-
left.
17.
And how many girls on the team for softball?
That's a good
12.
12.
It's-
12,
And that's
13.
just varsity?
Yep.
Okay, that's a big number, yeah.
Well,
Really,
when
not
you
for-
put 9 on the field, that's
Not- that's
not
not
that
right.
many.
Right.
That's
At
average.
least
Again, no injuries allowed.
Yeah.
if we only had
No
13.
Can't get
substitute.
sick, you can't get injured,
No.
you can't flunk out. That's
Yeah.
it.
No.
It's not an option.
What other questions do we ask the fall? Does anyone remember?
Well,
we asked if
I always
they
ask
need-
the
they
question,
need-
what,
yeah.
Given the season that you had, what is missing? What do you need? What would
And this is
make
basketball.
the
Yeah.
9 and 11, 10 and 10, or
Well,
whatever?
I think our biggest, like what we want the most is gym time, to be able to use like the BMR gyms or the like Millville gyms, because we're doing a lot of stuff outside of the school. We're having to drive to all these different AAU places. We're trying, like the Boys and Girls Club, and I think it would help if we could kind of bring our team to the gym we play, we play at.
For practice?
Yeah, for off-season work, because we get the time during the season. We get the 3 hours, like, for 5 days a week. But I think if we could get some off-season in the summer or in the spring, it would definitely help.
But
Why don't you get it?
That would have to be captain's practices, right? Because that's outside of the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, but it's hard to, like, right now, it's really hard to get the gym.
Is it because it's not available or because financial? No.
I've never
No.
gotten an answer.
It-
I didn't even think it was open to us.
Yeah.
The coach.
Actually, maybe we can ask our athletic director.
Well, I think right now, it's hard to kind of schedule when we had the spring that we've had, so the gym hasn't been really available. But in the summer going forward, I think that could be something that we could arrange, and just as long as there's an adult supervision that's not your coach, that could be there with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Like a schedule of like every Tuesday in the summer
Yeah.
at 9 a.m. Okay.
Jane would gladly
Were there any
go.
other
Taylor would pick me up, she can drive
pieces
now.
that, anything else missing that we could help with? Remember, we're money.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I mean, I just want to mention something completely free, by the way.
We
This
like
year
that.
we got our fan section really
Yeah.
going. We're calling it the Stampede, and maybe just like spread the word to not only like the high school but to the middle school as well, so they can see what it's like to be in high school games, that atmosphere. So we can reach like BMR, morning announcements, afternoon announcements, posters, all that kind of stuff, but maybe spread it throughout the district would be nice.
All right. Great. Any other questions?
Now, can you talk about the boys' team? I know obviously you didn't play in the boys' team, but how'd they do?
I think they had 3 wins. I thought they were 1.
They were,
They
like,
they didn't.
119.
It was definitely a rebuilding season for them.
Yeah.
I don't remember their record exactly, but it was like 1 or
119, I think.
yeah, or 2.
But I think the big thing is that they're a very young team.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, like,
A
I
lot of
know
freshmen.
the sophomore class and the freshman class, we have a lot of talent coming up. So in the next couple of years, we're definitely going to see a change with their team.
Do you happen to know how many were on the team, or maybe Jill knows number for the boys?
They have about 4 seniors, 5
Ooh.
seniors. So they are kind of starting fresh for next year. But we have some 8th graders, we have a core group of 8th graders that will be freshmen, and hopefully they'll stay with us. And we're hopeful that they'll help out as freshmen for both JV and varsity. But Mr. Rowe does a great job with the program, with, you know, what he has to kind of work with. He does an awesome job, and I think the kids, they had more. I mean, if you saw their season from the beginning to the end, you saw 2 different teams out there, and towards the end they kind of pulled things together had some pretty close games. I think our gym was pretty loud a few nights, which was great. So they did have more success, but towards the end where it's kind of hard to come back from.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So if you could introduce yourselves and tell us your sport. And I know we know.
I'm Chris Tringali. I'm a senior. I was on the indoor track team.
Come on, Sarah, stay up
Yeah,
there.
we'll get you back soon. I'm Taylor Kaderka, and I'm captain of indoor and outdoor for track team.
Great. So how was your winter season for indoor?
I'll let Taylor talk about the girls' team, but
Okay.
the guys' team, we went undefeated in the Dual Valley Conference, and we were actually DVC champs for the first time in school history, I think. So that was definitely great to be a part of, being a senior and like coming really close all these years, and then finally doing it was a great feeling. But
Great. Do we have a place for a banner in the gym for that? Curious.
I think Ms. Tosti said we're ordering one,
Yeah.
so.
Good.
But I think we have to get a new one, because
The year it's been.
we don't have a Dual Valley indoor championship one. We have a Dual Valley outdoor
Also getting
championship one.
t-shirts.
Any chance that will be before the seniors are done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I think it would be nice, because they were the ones that helped do it.
Good. Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
huge.
Yeah.
Your team is pretty good, and the numbers aren't struggling, and good membership, and there's good recruiting coming up.
Actually, the
Okay.
next couple of years might be interesting. We had a lot of seniors this year. I mean, I think the 8th graders, we got a bunch of good 8th graders that I know are gonna stick with it. We have 1 or 2 kids that played basketball that said they're going to do indoor track. 1 or 2 kids were on the cross country team and they did basketball, but after seeing how well we did this year, they wanted to kind of continue our legacy, so they're making the switch to indoor track next year. But we got a lot of 8th graders that did cross country that when they're in high school, they're able to do indoor track, which is unavailable to the middle schoolers. So when they get to the high school, they'll be able to contribute, and I think in a couple of years they'll be really good.
Is it possible to do basketball and indoor track, or would the schedules not?
Yeah, you can't do two
Yeah.
No.
sports in the same
Okay.
season.
I've tried.
You have to.
It doesn't work.
Is that a DVC rule?
Well, it's like MA rule, you can't.
I mean, it was a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
But the real question is, did you choose a college yet?
Working on it.
Don't look
No,
at
you don't.
Someone
Hey,
else.
you're on TV. Don't
Don't look at
don't
him.
answer it.
He
Don't
doesn't
answer
get to
it.
answer.
No,
You
don't
answer.
answer it. You're on TV. Okay.
You're
Yeah.
on TV. So no, they said no.
Not yet.
Okay,
You
and
wanna talk
girls?
about the girls?
Okay, so, I mean, for the past few years, our numbers are really low for girls indoor. So, but the quality's really good. So we've gone 6-1 for the past, 3 years. Sutton always beats us because they're just huge. But overall, I mean, we have freshmen to seniors, and they give it every single time, and they're good, and they get better. And for indoor, we had a freshman go to states, and this little tiny thing, she went really hard. And then we had a junior, and then me too. And Sarah actually went to all states. So I mean, the quality's there, but we still got to get more participation, obviously.
How many girls were there?
Oh my God, 10,
Okay.
10 or 12, who have to do 4 events a night. It's
Okay. Any other questions?
Come on, Chris, you're being too modest. Tell us about the states,
Yeah.
regionals and states.
So going into the states, there's states and there's all states. So states is by division, so there's 5 divisions. We're Division 5. So that's what a lot of us qualified for.
Yeah.
But then based on how you do, the top 3 make it to all states. And the 4x8 team, which I was a part of, and what was it, Sarah Spear.
Yep.
And I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the 2.
We all qualified for all states. So that's up at the Reggie Lewis Center in Boston. And one of the amazing things that I forgot to mention was that we were able to set a bunch of school records this year in a couple of the relays, the 4x8, the distance medley. I think the 600, I want to say, Zach Morin.
Yep.
But I think the girls broke a bunch of records too. So in addition to being a good year in terms of winning, we also set a bunch of records, which was good.
We have a place for those too, correct? Just making sure.
You just have to get the names up there.
Good, congratulations.
Well done.
So the last question is how can we help? What's missing?
Probably just like uniforms and like sweats that aren't from the 70s. That's
I think
really
we were
about
looking
it.
into warm-up, so, right,
Yeah.
there was a plan for that, so,
Yeah, she told me about that, so
Okay.
that's really about it.
thank you.
Other than that, we just run, so we don't really need much equipment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Well done.
No, we didn't.
Hi, so if you can tell us your names and your sport.
I'm Amber Allard, and I'm the captain of the varsity cheerleading team. And I'm Kendall Truscott, and I'm co-captain of the varsity cheerleading team.
And that's competition and basketball?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. And how, I guess we need to know about your competition season.
Well, this year, we did a lot better than we usually do. Like in past years, we did really bad. But this year was definitely an improvement. We made it to regionals, and we were unable to compete in it though, because our coach couldn't make it to the competition. So
Wow. Really?
yeah, we only got 3
Because
competitions
our
this
coach,
year.
she coaches another team, and I guess they took priority, so.
So she's not a staff person?
No.
Who's your coach? Not that, you know.
Sarah Woodworth. She's
She's from town, or you found her somewhere?
I guess she was just hired, and
Yeah.
she's been with us for 4 years now.
Our athletic director looks very confused, so, I don't know. Did you not know that, or you don't know? No, okay. Well, next time, that won't happen.
Yeah. Next time.
How many people on the squad?
13.
Is that large or not large?
It's better than past years.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
We've had 10 past years.
So how many competitions are there in a season for?
3 usually,
It-
unless we make it to states. Then
Past years it's been more, but this year it was 3.
Are there a lot of is it a district competition, and are there a lot of schools that have competitive cheerleading?
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you wish you had more than 3?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Do you know how many the normal cheerleading there is?
In the past years, how many
Is it
have
like
you had?
sports where you?
I want to say 4, 5 maybe.
Yeah.
And this is after basketball season, correct? It's not it's a shorter season?
They overlap a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's after, for the most
Only.
part, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully.
So I think we already know we could help with more competitions, but are there other pieces that are missing for you? Any training equipment, or where do you practice, and what kind of equipment do you have? I
Well,
guess?
currently we practice at a gym in Woonsocket, which is because of the coach that we are with, but I don't think she's coaching next year, so I don't know if we're going to have that gym available anymore.
Is it her dance
and you-
studio, or is it
No,
her?
it's a competitive cheerleading gym.
Yeah, it's like an all-star
Yeah,
gym.
but it's
So
a
you-
studio.
Yeah.
You've been on for several years. Did it used to be here in the cafeteria?
Yeah, it
Yeah, in the
was-
cafeteria and in the gym
I
sometimes.
just remember coming in for meetings, and you were setting up mats,
Yeah.
and so it was a new coach this year? Is that
No.
what?
Same coach.
Same coach.
But she just had a better connection at the gym this year, so
Mhm.
we were able to compete on the all-star mats.
So is that a preference?
I mean, the
You
mats.
don't have those mats.
We only have 4 here.
Yeah, there's
They
just
have,
more mats there,
Yeah.
so.
So it's
Yeah.
better.
Mm.
Probably don't have to set it up and take it down either.
Any other questions?
Well, thing I'm just sort of wrestling with is, sore subject, but I know you paid a full user fee. It sounds like you have some work to do.
Yeah. Well, so they're varsity basketball cheerleaders.
Yep.
And then the competition is kind of tacked on to that, right? It's all one season,
Yeah.
but it extends after the basketball season. Football, fall football, were you girls out there as well?
Yep.
So I believe I was told that was new this year.
It
Was this the first year?
No,
Was
it
it
was last
almost
year.
like a volunteer thing, or
It's considered a club.
Club.
it was a club? That's right. So no user fee.
It
It
was.
was a club.
I don't
This year
think.
they paid.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, I
was-
think
They
we did
did?
this year, last year.
Yeah.
They didn't travel with the
didn't.
football players.
Okay.
They just were at home games, and you had, what, 2 days a week practice?
Yeah.
So it was less
Yeah.
commitment than a regular fall sport.
Is it like sideline cheering, or is it like performing whatever?
It was
Performing, I think, is
mainly
great, right?
sideline cheering.
It was, yeah, we performed at halftime.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to an exciting season next year, too.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone? Sports are good? Okay. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good
but
luck with your
I know we have
season.
some seniors here that want to tell us about their class trip too, correct?
Oh, wow.
Jeez, couldn't wait to get up fast enough.
Slide on in. Oh, hey, I thought you were sitting over there.
Brownstone.
Hey, you smell good.
I would say introduce yourselves, but I think instead I'm going to ask the committee for a memory game. Sarah.
We like to keep busy at piano.
Okay, so we have a printout here, so we definitely have seen what you're planning. If you want to just give us the highlights and, tell us how many seniors you expect to be able to participate, that would be.
So I'll start off with one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, which is, of course, the annual class trip. Our class worked long and hard, scouring through websites, scouring through deals, finding the best possible way to both maximize our money and have a great day for the seniors and end their year. And at last, through a vote, we decided almost unanimously on Brownstone Adventure Park, which is in Portland, Connecticut. And that date is going to be a Tuesday, May 31st. The smorgasbord of activities they offer
telling ya.
include swimming, inflatable water obstacle course, cliff jumping, zip lines, wakeboarding, water slides, rope swing, and rock climbing. Now, this is a rain or shine event, so we're really hoping they smile down on us that day. But we're going to leave from BMR at 7:15 a.m. in coach buses, and we're going to arrive at Brownstone at about 9:15. They're going to serve us breakfast at 9:30, and we're going to have a quick safety instruction meeting. And then you go off, and then 11:30 we'll come back for lunch, and then 2 o'clock dessert. And at last, 4:30, we'll leave and arrive at BMR around 6:30. And of course, in between all those meals is just whatever you feel like doing, because the adventure pass is yours. The entire park is up to you of which of those events you want to participate in. Everyone wears bathing suits and life vests all day, part of safety. And students will only pay $30 for this class trip. And that $30 isn't even for the trip, but it's just so we can have nice coach buses on the way there, move in comfort, because it is a long drive. And the value of admission alone is equal to $100, and these students are paying nothing for admission. They're just paying for the buses, so that's fantastic. And all BMR rules will apply to this trip.
So how did you fund your trip? If it's
Lots of
Like different fundraisers?
the 4
Right.
years worth of you're
4
using
years worth of
your-
fundraisers,
There
yeah.
was some
Perfect.
pasta involved.
No,
just-
I remember Yankee
Yeah.
Candles, Mr.
Great.
BMR.
Oh,
Yeah.
That raised a lot of money.
That's a huge fee.
Find Your Bay, that for
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Like a
matchmakers.
Matchmakers. We did a lot.
Every senior is eligible to go.
Yep.
And what if they can't afford the $30?
If they can't afford $30, they can speak with our advisor, Ms. Gomes, because there's always, for a senior who wants to go on the trip, we're never going to give them a no. So that's always up for discussion, and we'll find a way.
You expect 100% participation.
I think it'd be crazy not to take
Yeah,
this up. But
hopefully.
And who will the 5 chaperones be besides who will the other 4 chaperones be?
Nice try, Mrs. Red.
Mr. Tringale?
First
Not
5
Mr.
people.
Tringali.
No,
I'm just.
Okay, good.
I know, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's on Mrs. Gomes.
Is the park closed for the day? Do you have it to yourself?
Oh, we're not like shutting down the whole
No?
thing. Yeah,
No.
it's like along with
Bay Path,
public
vocational.
admission.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a school day, so
Yeah.
When I was
Yeah.
talking
there might
to
be
my-
other,
Maybe no one else has
Yeah.
the same idea.
Yeah.
there might be other field trips.
The coach bus company we're going through is actually bringing another school to Brownstone on that day, so there's at least one other.
Oh, make
there.
friends.
Yes,
Friends are
network.
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's wonderful. Do we have?
Do they have
we're
to sign a
moving on.
release?
in the consent
Y'all have
agenda.
to sign a release?
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
yeah, there's waivers and
With
forms.
them or with us? With us?
We won't take it
Well,
out.
With the place?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I know
it's-
there's standard field trip permission forms, like as
Yeah.
for any field trip, but there's also with Brownstone, I think.
I think
I think it's just part of the
They-
safety
yeah.
action.
The safety stuff.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
Any other questions?
Well, as long as you guys are here, what else is going on between now and the end of the year? Here's your
Prom.
stage.
I'm glad you asked.
Go for it. Might
Wow.
have been a setup there.
So you guys all know that whole the whole week before graduation where there's like so much to think about. So it starts with the class trip, so everyone's in a good mood, and then the next day is the class banquet. We all dress in formal wear. I don't exactly know what goes on at one because I've never been.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's like a nice dinner, everyone eats. We're actually exploring all our dining options right now, whether we should do a sit-down dinner, which is a little more formal, or like a buffet style. It's at Crystal Lake Country Club in Burrillville, Massachusetts. And Mr. Ducharme will tell you it overlooks a beautiful golf course.
It was his idea.
It was,
that,
yeah.
that he wanted us to go there.
Yeah, his recommendation. It seats up to 225 people.
It's a fee.
And
It's free 9.
yeah, so
Yeah, I'd actually never been, so like I don't really know
I've
much about
never.
it.
I think it was
Very nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
good.
guys,
Then-
well, Ben.
We'll like it.
Good choice.
Mr. Ducharme speaks highly of it, so why not go?
Good. And what comes after Wednesday?
And
Awards
then
night.
Wednesday
Awards night.
is awards night. And that's at BMR in the auditorium. That's when we do all the scholarships, either from the school itself or the community. Like each of the departments, I think, have their own sort of
They have like
award or honor to like the best science person, foreign language person, and then there's all the ones that people apply to. So we'll find all that out. That'll be exciting.
Good. And what time is graduation?
6?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
And how many days
Exactly how
left?
many days away is it?
23. Oh, that's till the last day.
The 23 till the last day.
Yeah.
Griffin, they seem to know that number.
Yeah, it's
Kevin's not leaving. He's staying. He's not leaving. He's staying until actually graduation.
No, I always don't have the exact senior countdown. I'm pulling it up on
Counting
my
down.
phone.
It's almost in every room in the school, I think.
Oh,
It's
no.
just a huge circled number, so
Yeah.
I think we're a little
21
excited.
days.
As you should be. Any other questions?
Is there a prom coming up soon?
Yes.
Next week.
A week from right now.
Yeah, this
Actually.
Thursday. In 1 week, we'll be having
I do
our
have a
dance
question
and
about that, though. Who, do you all set that, I mean, I know it's always in spring break, or it has been since I've been around. Is that tradition for a reason?
Maybe just like planning wise,
Yeah.
it's easier. It's easier to say this date forever so that no one plans around it.
And I think a long time ago, people were leaving school early, like it was just this whole like,
hard
and I'm
deal.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Gotta
not a
get
whole lot of
your hair
attendance.
done.
It's
Yeah.
not during this
If it's
big
during the
deal.
school
You know
day,
what
you
I
have 90% of the people being dismissed at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
I
get their
know
hair
it's-
done and go get
And
everything
that's
done.
pretty similar at most high schools, right? Is that
Smart
vacation
high
week? or-
schools either do it on a vacation or you do it on a half a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Unlike mine, where we do a full day and I just open the doors and say goodbye.
I do believe there's some history to, and I don't know if it's even applying anymore, but it used to be more affordable for the
That's
students on a Thursday as opposed to
A Friday or
weekend.
Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
not
that
a
I can
school day.
understand. I just,
So it
you
fit
know,
into
we have
vacation.
we have the eighth graders in Washington DC or whatever that goes into the vacation. Then we have so if you're a family trying to plan a vacation, it's a difficult, April might as well
Don't pick
be
April.
shot.
Colleagues don't go.
Yeah.
No.
And how do you, the breakfast that you told us about last time, did people have to buy tickets ahead of time for that? Do you know how the participation is going to be?
People had to buy tickets ahead of time just to ensure, and we did generate some interest, but I think just other people planning around prom, I think the idea stuck, and a lot of people were interested by it, but unfortunately we didn't quite hit that number we needed, so we had discussions with the people at Paradise Cafe, and
It's
that's not going to be happening this year, but
That's too bad.
yeah.
All right.
That was really
Any other information for us tonight?
That was a lot. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we covered everything.
We appreciate it. We know
Finish
you're
strong.
busy.
Strong.
Busy time of year.
Would cry.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, and just so you know, we are voting on your field trip in our next, it's coming.
Oh, okay.
No worries.
Most of us are.
No, you do not have to say.
We're a no
Unless we're
unless we go,
going.
so.
That sounds fun.
All right.
Although there's nothing to stop us from going.
So moving on, we have.
Just go drag yourself down
You have
there.
more information?
I'm not paying $100 to get in.
Yeah,
You have more information for us? You came back.
Oh,
from
yeah.
Table, so-
Chirping in his ear.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Mr. BMR is here to give us a presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you. So in addition to fantastic sports and seniors, we have other stuff going on in school. Actually, the reason my friend Eric isn't with me tonight is because it's a Meet the Candidates night for Central Massachusetts Student Council. And although Eric is leaving, I believe it's been mentioned that we do have someone running, and that's Anita LaHue, who's a sophomore at our school, entering to be a junior. And she's running for vice president of the Central Region. So hopefully she'll follow up Eric, and she's meeting the people who will be voting for her tonight.
And he's
So-
with her.
Yep, and he's with her, Guy and Curlong, and also running the event. And we have some other student council members there handing out stuff, showing support. And that election will actually be at the spring conference, which is coming up in late April. That will be, again, Eric's farewell speech, but it will also be Anita giving her election speech, and that will be the election, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll definitely have lots of representation there to spread the word. Another student council event is actually coming up this week, and that's just a Spirit Day of Unity and Color for the Boston Marathon anniversary, which is actually coming up. And that's just in memory of those who either were injured or lost life that day. The National Honor Society, the induction is coming up real soon. Officers are writing their speeches, and then soon we'll be passing on the torch and lighting the candles and letting in our sophomores, and our seniors will be off. And that's where our new officers will also be elected from the junior class, 5 positions. Athletics we discussed, but one thing that wasn't mentioned and has been real exciting was actually G Week, which stands for Gatorade. And that was actually an initiative we actually had with Gatorade, where they came to our school, and over the course of 3 days, they let us try products for free, the students. And those included Gatorade protein shakes, those include Gatorade protein bars, Gatorade Energy Chews, and just things along those lines. And we had discussions on nutrition, sports nutrition specifically, healthy diet, protein, and they just kind of let you try the products. And those products are all now for sale in our after-school store, which is run by Ms. Tosti. So athletes, before they play their sports, can get some energy for the day. Band news, I said before that we had some finals coming up. The results from that was our winter guard placed 4th at NESBA in their new division, which was exciting, and NESBA stands for New England Scholastic Band Association. The winter percussion, drumline, got 3rd at New England Scholastic Band Association, and they got 4th at MAC, which is just a Connecticut conference. There's a Red Sox game coming up that our band is going to have the opportunity to play at, which is very exciting. The logistics for that and tickets are all being settled, but that's going to be a really cool opportunity for those students that choose to participate. And the band will also be making an appearance at the Millville Centennial Parade, which is really exciting. 1916 to 2016, my small town's going to hit 100 years. That'll be a very fun day. just in general school events, we're all basically just wrapping up our classes and buckling down as far as AP classes go, because those exams are in very early May, from like the 5th to the 15th. So it's starting more the review phase and less the new material phase. And as we're very thankful for, Mass Insight gave us that grant, which gave us new initiatives and new opportunities. So they've given us some practice exams around this time, some help, and I think it's really been helping our students. I think we're going to see some really good performance this year. And on the other end of things, there was an AP meeting for our sophomores who might be interested in taking AP classes next year. And that also had some statistics from Mass Insight and just a recruiter to really tell kids that this is what's best for their future and opportunity if they choose to accept that challenge. And April vacation is coming up this week, and with that, prom. There will be assemblies this week to prepare for prom, just let students know what's safe. And we all want to have a very fun night, but we want to have a responsible one and make sure everyone gets home safe. So, over 200 tickets were sold for our prom, so that'll be a very fun night. And we will have our teacher chaperones, very exciting. And the senior countdown, yet again, it's at 21 days left. We're all ticking clock. And last item, Blackstone Millville's LGBT and Gay Straight Alliance is collecting participation for their Day of Silence, which is when students can register as an official participant and they spend a day in silence at the school, kind of a living metaphor at BMR for prejudice and lack of voice and lack of representation for people in the LGBT community.
What date is the Red Sox game?
I'm actually not positive on that. I'll get
July 5th?
July 5th?
I knew I had
There
seen
you
it,
go,
but
yeah.
at this point, it's still only available to the band, correct?
Yes,
The
but I
band.
think that the availability is going to be expanded as far as tickets go. I know we were discussing that in band.
Do you know when they're playing?
I'm sorry?
Do you know when they will play?
I think at the beginning. I think it's the Star Spangled Banner. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Good. Any other questions for? Have a very fun time at your prom, and it's safe, of course.
Thank you.
What are everyone's plans afterwards if it is not the Paradise Cafe?
I don't know. I know I'm probably just, it's been busy. I'll probably spend some time with some friends, just definitely kick off the tux and change into maybe a t-shirt and athletic shorts.
Sure.
And thank you guys very much for hosting our student athletics and
Absolutely.
our seniors.
We need to get the spring in here, and we'll have succeeded a full year of
Yeah.
review.
Fantastic.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I would actually like, if there are no objections, we're going to move out of order and move to the school committee, and we'll have to come back to consent agenda. So we can, because we have some other guests here, so we can invite our Maya representatives to the table. You could definitely pull, thank you. Pull the chairs up there. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having us. I'm Chris Bailey. I'm the manager of the My Health Insurance Trust.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Callahan, the marketing manager.
Okay,
I'm Sandra Fumifredo, account rep.
thank
for
you,
the
Sandra.
district.
Ken Lombardi, insurance advisor to the district.
Thank you. So I will just start. You can definitely sit, please.
Thank you.
I want to give you a little bit of information. I know I reached out to you, Mr. Bailey, during the week requesting specific information. I'm sure we're not the only people you're hearing from in regards to increases in, financial issues within our own budget. But something else unique happened for me today, and I need to share it with you because it affects what we're doing here. I spent my afternoon listening to my own town's FinCom and Selectmen meeting to get their budgets in order. It was a meeting that happened last night, but I was unable to be there, so I spent my 3.5 hours this afternoon listening to their meeting respectfully. When they got to our budget, they had nothing nice to say about us. And that's hard. We're 8 members. We're short one right now, but 4 from each town. And we essentially have to beg, borrow, and plead every year when we go to their table. Today I heard them talk about how we don't care about the budget we bring to them, and that was hard, because we feel like we work very hard to get to what's manageable for us to run the school district, and what, we're hoping our towns can afford. Something that they always say to us, and they did say it at our FinCom meeting on March 30th, was, it's not fair that you bring us a budget that's 3.6% increase from last year, when we, the town, can only raise 2.5%. So unfortunately, I'm going to turn around and say the same thing to you. We are being told by our towns we shouldn't be higher than 2.5%. We did submit to them a 3.6% increase budget from last year, and we're facing a 12.8% increase on our insurance. And, the 8 people sitting here, we want to take care of our employees. We want the kids to have everything they need. Any extras would be great. And we need to be responsible for our towns. So unfortunately, not having this conversation with you would not be responsible. And I do hope my town is watching, because this is the responsible thing to do. It's not just, okay, we're paying 12.8%.
Yep.
I was a little bit offended by the comment they made about us not caring, because that's farthest from the truth. So with that being said, we need some help. This is just not a number we can afford for our members. It's not a number we can afford for our budget. It's not a number we can afford for our towns. And I do believe it was a number we got very late after we had already worked with a budget, which made it also much harder. I know I have a lot of questions for you, but I'll definitely let you give us, if you brought us some information, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'm going to, let Joe do a little introduction on
Sure.
Maya.
Thank you,
Maya's
Chris.
already with the district.
So a little bit about Maya, I think that'll help. We applaud you for all the nice things you're doing. And of course, the story that you described is something we're hearing everywhere. It's a healthy conflict that exists between school districts and the constituents. And we've put together some thoughtful solutions to help mitigate that. And these folks will go through that in a little bit. But Maya, what is Maya? So it's helpful to understand that. Maya is a nonprofit. We specialize in a number of areas, but it's predominantly insurance, wellness, and risk management. In the early 80s, there was a workers' comp crisis here in Massachusetts, where the commercial market would not respond to cities, towns, or school districts. So we formed a risk pool, and that's what you participate in. You are members of a risk pool. The first program was the workers' comp, and that went online in 1982. In 1986, we experienced the same crisis for cities, towns, and school districts with liability. So we formed a liability pool. And then in the early 90s, of course, we hear about a health crisis, and we formed the Health Trust. So all combined, under the umbrella, Maya represents more than $500 million of pooled premium as a membership organization. You are a member. Your premiums come in, and with those premiums and 385 other members, we pay claims. And as a nonprofit, there is no profit. We build reserves so that we can continue to provide the stability that we've been known for as long as we need to provide our services. That being said, there are a number of tools we have available to us. The biggest component of why the members participate in the trust, and it's a huge distinction, Maya is the only risk purchasing group that will band our renewals. We guarantee every year to all our members what the minimum and what the max will be. It's very unheard of. There is no other risk pool or any other commercial entity that will do that. And we do that banding so that you folks have the ability to budget, but not deal with huge swings. And so we have members in our trust that did deserve a 16 or an 18 or a 20. And if you were with the commercial market, you would have gotten that. But we've capped it, and this year the min was a 4 and the high was a 12.8. And that is the way that we deliver some stability. And so we've looked at a number of options to help mitigate your increase this year with product design. We have some observations around the claims because that's important information. And then we have some observation around plan design as well. So with that, I turn it over.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. So when you emailed me, you had a request to get some updated data. Now, it's a normal policy not to release updated claims and loss ratio data during the renewal season, but I think, as we can all agree, we have a unique situation here, a unique circumstance. So I did bring the most updated loss ratio report with me that we can review. And again, I will say that you are the only account that we have provided this for. Again, it's because we have a unique circumstance here that we want to address.
I want to jump in, but is there a reason you don't provide that data?
Yes, there are very good reasons. We rate everything on data through paid claims through September 30th, and that's the basis for our entire renewal. Now, you have to remember that we are an organization, the Health Trust has 120 individual cities, towns, school districts, and whatnot. So while we rate everyone individually and the data is presented on an individual basis, you are still part of the trust. What ends up happening is that to get updated data in the renewal season, if you provide updated data in the renewal season, yes, I apologize, I am one short. I thought I printed out 10, so, oh no, here's a couple more. Okay.
Thank you.
So if you provide updated data in the renewal season, the rating is based on 24-month period. Each month is weighed equally. It's 2 fiscal years, and each year is weighted at 50%. Updated data, if you wanted to get it in time to make any additional decisions regarding in the renewal, you'll probably get data through December 31st. So you get 3 months of updated data out of 24 months. Even if there is a remarkable improvement, it's only for it would only be for those 3 months. So if you improve by 40%, which is unheard of, you wouldn't. It's still weighed down because you're still weighing the other 21 months equally where you have bad. So the ability of 3 additional months of really good data to change the overall picture of the rating, it really doesn't. What it does is it leads to a perception that, oh, we're running much better. Oh, we should get a lower increase. Of course, we have 120 entities. So logic dictates that if you take the data 3 months later, on average, 40 are going to run better, 40 are going to remain about the same, 40 are going to get worse. We can't go to the 40 who get worse and say, we need to get more now from you. However, the 40 who get better, who look at, they're going to come and say, we're running better, we need to get a lower increase. If that happens and we start getting into that situation, you can unbalance the trust because we're not collecting enough premium to compensate for the 40 members who are getting worse. And again, improvement of 3 months is only a perception of improvement. The rating period is a 24-month period. And over a short period of time, and I think Ken can back me up on this, you can get data anomalies. If you look at this loss ratio, you can see, and I'll kind of break it down in more detail, but you can see there are months where the claims can swing from one month to another. It's not kind of a straight line. It's choppy. So just because you have a couple of good months doesn't mean the next month they're not going to get caught up and everything. So it's really important to rate on that stability of that 24-month
Now,
period.
could you just tell us what each column
Absolutely,
is
absolutely. Yeah,
standing
I'm
for?
going to go in. The whole top half here of the top half is your claims, paid claims. The bottom half is collected premiums. So you can see the very first column, we have months. Type is just claims versus premiums. BCE, that's your PPO plan. HMO, self-explanatory. MX2, that's your Medicare supplement plan, the MedX plan. And then you have a subtotal and then a total, which are equal. The only way they would be different is if you carried a dental plan. The Medix plan, as you can see, is running very well. However, that also renews separately on January 1st. So while it's in this equation, it's not really part of the renewal. So your renewal is really based on your PPO and HMO plan for 7/1. Now, this is the most updated that we have. It's paid claims to the end of February of 2016 versus your premiums through 2016. And as we can see, your PPO plan is running at what is 110% loss ratio through February, which means for every dollar in premium we collect, we're paying out $1.10 in claims. Your HMO is at 105%, so we're paying out $1.05 in claims for every dollar we collect in premium. Now, this is just straight premium and claims. It doesn't take into account the administrative fees and our salaries and our rent and our lease. It doesn't take into account the fees we have to pay to Blue Cross to access the network, to have them process all the claims for us, to issue all the ID cards. It doesn't take into account the reinsurance the trust has to purchase to protect the trust from unforeseen catastrophic events. It doesn't take into account additional fees that have been put on by the Affordable Care Act. In general, and again, I think Ken will back me up, and this is a conservative number, most underwriters would consider around 88 to 90% to be a break-even loss ratio for a health insurer. So you see we have well over 100% here. It means that, what it means here is that the group is benefiting from
They're
being
using
in
their
the trust.
benefits.
Right, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And not only that, the group is benefiting from being in the trust, because a combined 107% loss ratio, to get you down to a break-even point of 90%, a true increase would, as Joe mentioned, would be above a 12.8%. But with Maya, it's capped. Probably about 20% of our members are at that cap. It's 12.8%. So you guys are not alone. It's not like 12.8% is the max, and you guys are the max. No, there's a whole collection of our members who are at the max. We do have that max to protect groups from wild and unpredictable swings. At this point, I know I've covered a lot of information so far. Is there any specific questions?
Well, so when you look at the 2-year, the 24 months that you look at, because you gave us the additional, and I appreciate seeing where we have been since then, but you stop at 9/30, so 10/1?
Yeah, through rating is rated through 9/1. Yeah, that's what it's actually rated on. And that data is usually available because it's paid claims. It's usually available in early December, and then we take that and we use that to develop the rating. It has to go through our actuarial. We use Milliman based out of Manhattan. That's one of the most highly respected
And was that
actuarial
time
firms.
frame also above 100%?
Yes, yes. As you can see, this is a rolling 24 months.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was about the same.
About the same.
About the same, yes. There wasn't any remarkable changes in either direction. Page 2 just gives a previous fiscal year.
Right.
Where, coincidentally, the PPO was actually running very well. But there's such a small enrollment in the PPO that it's prone to large swings. You don't need a lot to happen to get that on balance. The HMO was actually running worse last year than it is this year. But you combine the two, and you're well over 100%. So as trust manager, you are right. I have heard a number of these type of conversation, a number of calls from communities, from school districts saying, we can't afford this. This means we have to lay off people. It's just not budgetable. And I have had these tough conversations. And it's not easy. And we certainly don't want to be the ones where individuals think that we don't care, because we take this very seriously. This is what we do. As Joe mentioned, we have a nonprofit. Any extra money that comes out at the end of the year just goes into our reserves. We have a reserve cap where our reserves can't get too high. That's set by our board of directors. Our board of directors are all active municipal officials, generally town managers and selectmen who are on our board of directors. So if we actually go over our cap, then the money is released back to our members in the form of additional rate relief. Right now, our reserves are right within the prescribed range from the board of directors.
What is the cap?
The cap, it goes by a actuarial formula. The cap it's an RBC number. It's complicated, but right now our reserves are about $95 million, and we are billing just under $400 million in premium every year. So our reserves are about 1/4 of our annual premium. And that's right in the mid-range right now. So the cap would probably approach about 110, 150 million would be the cap, where we'd start, if we go over that, we'd start releasing money back to communities.
Essentially, we like to have 3 to 4 months of reserves to pay claims.
Right.
That makes sense.
Just something I wanted to follow up on. So as you look at the data, something that we've done historically for this particular group is we have subsidized the rate lower than what was actually indicated. And unfortunately, you do that 2, 3, 4 years, and it's producing this trend in that the experience isn't getting better. So we could sit here today and say, let's throw a point at it or 2 points at it. But that's only going to bring you worse news next year. What's happened is we have subsidized this thinking it would turn around, and it hasn't. What causes us concern at a macro level for the whole trust is trend is now accelerating at a double digit. This is the first time we've seen this in a long time. We used to budget trend 6, 7, 8%. We're looking at trend for FY18 well over 10%. So the renewals that we're delivering this year are actually going to be more favorable than what we're seeing for next year. And so we take that as a serious assignment because we've partnered with the largest mitigator in healthcare costs we possibly could, and that's Blue Cross. We take your message, we deliver it to the folks at Blue Cross. We have to get our handle around these costs because they're out of control. But essentially what we're seeing is the compounding of the ACA with accelerated pharmacy cost and a medical trend we just can't get our arms around.
I think you might have seen in the news stories about skyrocketing prescription drug costs. There are a lot of new drugs to the market, and many of them are very valuable, but they're also very expensive. They could really, in the long term, have great impacts on overall health incomes, but the front-loaded cost to pay for these drugs can be unbelievable. We have the drug Harvoni, which is used for hepatitis C. It costs $90,000 for a dosage, and the drug is supposed to cure hepatitis C. It's a miraculous result. The upfront cost is spectacular, though. There is a new level of statin drugs coming out, which anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a year to be on these drugs, but they're drugs for people who aren't able to take current statin drugs. So if they have issues, heart issues, high cholesterol, whatnot, they can't take the current drugs. They'll be able to take these drugs, and it's a decent percentage of the population which will have medicine that can mitigate their issues, but the costs are through the roof. And I think, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, the cost that we pay here in the United States is triple, quadruple what they're paying anywhere else in the free world. You have your friends in the federal government to thank for some of that, but it's a big picture issue. But these costs trickle right down to the local government level.
But lots of promises coming from our presidential candidates on fixing the prescription drugs, so we'll see where that goes.
Right.
But
So I'll say we're going to fix it, and then nothing.
they're fixing
Pushing
everything.
the cost on us.
All right.
I have a few questions from what you first presented. You mentioned the 4.8 to 12.8, the fixed ratio. It seems like a really a wider range than I've been doing my homework. I've looked at the GIC to understand it better because it's our responsibility to understand what the options will be. Is there any time that range would be a smaller window? It seems.
So historically, our range looks like a spread like that. In some years, it's a 0 as a min. Some years, it's been an 8.
And when do you publish that?
So our board approves the rating model at the January board meeting, which is about the 3rd or 4th week in January. And then it takes us about 3 weeks to then, once they've approved that, to then develop all the specific rating by member.
Right.
What's different about Maya is we use your experience to develop your rate. We're the only purchasing group that does that. All the other purchasing groups develop a set community rate for each product. So because we're actually rating out all 120 members, it does take a little bit of time to do it. But renewals are generally available middle of February, early March,
And they're only on an annual basis.
only on an annual basis.
Yeah. To Joe's point earlier, too, he had mentioned previous years, the group getting some rates that, have been subsidized. There's been some strong negotiations that have happened, and there's been some pretty good deals that have been made. I put together a 4-year rate history just to see some of these increases, and I don't think this is well known to Ken as well. In July of 2013, the district got a 2.25%. In July of 2014, the rates were held flat. There was a no increase. And last year, there was a 5% increase. Over that same period of time, on average, medical trend at a low estimate has probably been about 7% every year. So for that 3-year period, medical inflation has risen 21%, but your rates had only gone up 7.25%. So then if we add this large increase on top of it, 12.8%, it gets your rate of increase over 4 years at 20%. But if you add another 7% for medical inflation would have risen 28%. So the way that this has kind of happened is not my vision of what I want the trust to do in the future. The purpose that groups are in the trust is for stability. And you've had some very low rates, and now you have a shock, and I don't think that should happen. If you guys had just had a 5% for the previous 3 years, to get to 20% over 4 years, you just have another 5% this year, and you just have a fixed budget number that you can rely on. Right. But again, there was some very strong negotiations. I think one year there was a bid where there was an aggressive number on the table. There was back and forth. And as Joe mentioned, there was hopes that our medical trend would go down. And in fact, medical trend did go down, but our RX trend has skyrocketed. And it wasn't really on anyone's radar probably 3 years ago that this was going to happen at this rate.
Let me ask you a question. 3
Sure.
years ago, what, and you'll probably know the answer to this. What year was it that older children were allowed to stay on your plan longer? By chance, do you? I'm just curious.
26?
26, is it?
Yeah,
So
through age
you-
26. I think it happened in 2012.
12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2012, yeah. Mhm.
I mean, taking that into consideration, for us, which we're just a smaller portion of your membership, that must have affected throughout. You're carrying your dependents longer, and, adults sometimes have.
It probably did have an impact, or the impact, I don't know if there's been any studies I haven't really seen any. There's probably some firms that have done some studies on it. Generally, your dependents ages 20 to 26 are very low utilizers of healthcare. So while you did have this influx of individuals onto your plan, and it definitely led to some increase in costs, I don't think it was a huge driver. I haven't seen any studies that have, backed that point up, maybe a percentage point since it's happened. if I had to guess.
So just so you know what 12.8% looks like for us, I know you already know how much we pay, but $335,000 is 6 teachers, and that is our entire kindergarten program. That is, that we have, it's not something we can even work with. So I was really hoping for better news from you.
Yeah.
I can definitely see in your numbers why we are where we are. but I need you to know that we can't afford it, and
Right.
we're going to have to explore every option at this point.
Well, right
because-
now, we are working very closely with Ken on a number of different options to help mitigate that increase. It does involve plan design change and some potential new products that we have available. We have had a lot of back and forth with Ken, and I'm not sure if we're ready to present everything tonight, but we have
Not
had.
necessarily, we're still vetting some
Yeah.
options out.
Right, but.
Erin, can I ask?
And we do have an insurance advisory committee that I'd want present for that
Of
anyway,
course,
but.
yes.
May I ask a question,
Certainly.
Erin, if that's okay? So, I haven't seen the updated data, but I'm just curious, do we know what the large claim impact might be to this loss ratio?
I did look at that. I didn't want to present large claims at an open meeting, because even though the information is blinded, at a relatively small group, the information does include diagnosis, cost. It's not too hard for an individual to know, to figure out who is making the large claims, and that's not information you want out there. The group itself, large claims represent about total, about 10% of claim spend. The my average is about 14%. So large claims are not really driving this. You have a lower percentage of large claims in the average group. What's really driving this actually is that the rates that you have for your current benefit design are actually, pretty low. Amongst this benefit design, we have about, I think, 16 accounts in the Maya Trust who have the same benefit design. It's the old GIC lookalike plan on the HMO. And you guys have the lowest rate for that plan in the trust of the 16. And I think part of that is these very low increases that we've seen the previous 3 years. So it's really not that you're having extremely high claims costs. The plan is unfortunately relatively underfunded due to these low increases that have occurred and medical trend increasing the way it has. I know that doesn't solve your problem at all.
Well, I mean, we look forward to hearing options you've been able to put together, but, unfortunately, whatever we are able to work with this year is our starting number for next year.
Right.
And we're going to, we don't want to be having the same conversations.
So Erin, let me just
Sure.
follow up with that, and I think it's always important for us to understand what the assignment is, so we can put together a solution. And that being said, what is the budget number? What did you budget?
I believe we budgeted 5%.
6% this year.
Okay.
We budgeted
So
6%.
going forward, at a minimum, you should be budgeting at least 10%.
It's probably the number that scares us away from doing that, because we know we can't afford. When we see that number, the 10%. yeah.
So your peers, how they're managing it, is they're managing with plan design. You have to use the tools that are available to you. And unfortunately, that's the only tools available to you.
Right.
And so we have a fabulous lineup. I mean, essentially, we have the whole portfolio of the Blue Cross Blue Shield product, and we can custom design the current products, and we can push it. If you think we need to pick up another point or two, and we need to push a copay in a different direction, happy to do it. We had a very nice call with Alan not too long ago, where we were just kicking around a lot of good ideas that I think gets you to your budget number.
To Joe's point, in the trust, we are able to create plan design solutions that are specific to each individual account. Joe mentioned other purchasing groups that have the same rate for every single entity. They also have the exact same plan design for every single entity, whether they want it or not, and they can change plan designs, and the entities don't have a choice. We, are able to create customized solutions for our accounts.
Yes.
Just a quick question. I know you mentioned that we have the opportunity to look at tools to mitigate. Here we are, April 13th. April 14th, do you know how quickly the timeline that we could sit and look at
I think we're pretty close.
possible options?
Yeah, what do you say?
Because our town meetings are going to vote in a short period of time, May 2nd, May 9th and May 31st, on our budget. So it would be helpful if we could understand where that might go.
I think they're prepared, Alan, at this point to present a number of options to the IAC members and get their input.
And the important thing is we will allow changes off anniversary. So yes, you have to come to a decision. We don't want you to feel like you're boxed in to make a quick decision, but we can spread it out to suit your time frame. But we just need at least 45 days to implement.
So would it be fair to say that we could get together in 2 weeks, the week of April 25th?
Yeah. Let's see.
And that would be,
Problem with that.
a good time frame to be able to then get the IAC together and discuss.
Yes.
So that's just to go over, just so we're clear, the public is clear. People will get together and talk about plans within the offerings of Maya.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone else?
Not really a question, but Joe, I think you had said in the beginning, one of the benefits was no huge swings, you had said, right? 0%, 5%, 12.8%.
Right.
What would I call that?
Right.
And like we said, if we went to the towns with our, hey, guess what? Our budget this year is 0%. Next year it was 5, next year it's 12.8. We'd need to get a helmet to go back there.
Absolutely.
So I would say 0 to 5 to 12.8 is a huge swing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've actually, personally, I've only been the trust manager since October. If I was a manager in 14, I probably would not have let that 0 happen. I don't know the situation then. I was operations manager, making sure all of your enrollments are processed correctly, getting your ID cards out. So I'm sure there was some strong negotiations and probably a strong presence of a bid there. But yeah, giving a group of 0% is always risky and on high claims. And the purpose of the trust is to create rate stability and not to have these swings. I agree with you 100%.
I just think the other thing, the point that I don't know if it's on people's minds at home or whatnot, but I do think that we need to at least throw it out there to the public that we'll do our due diligence in terms of looking at these plans, but there are other options that we're going to explore if they don't go another way. GIC is one of them. I think you mentioned that. It's not that we want to do that, but that is, I don't know how else we go down a path.
Because even at what we budgeted at 6%, it's just, like I said, whatever we start at this year, we're starting next year, and it's just,
Right.
That number's getting bigger than.
Right. And again, we're not blaming anybody. It's just that, if we're going to blame anybody, it's going to be the governor and the legislators for not funding healthcare the correct way
Right.
and helping
Or regulating.
education do that. And we'll do that next week. But I do think the public needs to know that we're going to try to do our due diligence with all these different type of plans with Maya, but there is the other option of going to GIC as well that we would look at, I guess. And I don't know which way I would go at this point, because I think all the options are not great.
I guess another question I would have is, why doesn't Maya offer other plans such as Fallon or other plans that would be what I guess I would consider
So
comparable?
good question. Very early on, when we launched the Health Trust in 1992, we partnered with Tufts, and that arrangement didn't work out. In less than 24 months, we partnered with Blue Cross. Blue Cross gives us the lowest administrative rate that any client has in Blue Cross because of the critical mass we can deliver and leverage. What we buy from Blue Cross is the network and their ability to pay claims on our behalf. Bringing another entity into the mix is for the purpose of plan design. We can bring you any plan design. The one option we have not had available to us, where the members have asked for it, would be a limited network. And Blue Cross, just this year, in the last 2 months, customized a network just for Maya. And we call it our customized network. It is a limited network. We are offering it to you folks. I think it's a really good solution.
Well, we do have a lot of Rhode Island, we have, because we're right on the line.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yep.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
the point there is
It's another option.
it's another option, but typically, we would require you to do a full replacement with a new option. We're not requiring that. We'll allow you to have it as a dual option. So you have the limited network run alongside the current HMO, or step up in the HMO, or the PPO. And that gives a lot of choice.
Yeah. But don't you think if Maya was offering those, other options, that it would make Blue Cross more competitive with you?
I can sit here and say, we have the most competitive administrative rate from Blue Cross. We're in the Gillette world.
For Blue Cross, though.
With Blue Cross, but we would never get that deal with anybody else. Because we regularly test it. We regularly test it, because we have fiduciary responsibility.
With Blue Cross of Massachusetts currently has 50% of the insured business in Massachusetts. Through them, they're able, with that market share, they're able to negotiate the lowest cost through hospitals, the best deals with the provider networks, the best deals for RX that these small insurers just can't match. With Maya, we feel it makes the most sense to be aligned with that. There are other JPAs that offer and have been offering multiple carriers, and we're actually, due to competitive reasonings and higher trends, we're starting to see some of those JPAs fracture as the costs of the plans start to separate depending on where the enrollment goes. And you have one plan that's increasing 25%, another plan is at 2% because all the healthy people go to the cheaper plan, and then it just unbalances, and we see some of those smaller JPAs are starting to fracture. And they're also, coming out with 15, 16% rate increases across the board. And I have to believe that at least some of the issues they're facing is having multiple carriers. They're not able to take advantage of the economy of scale of taking your entire block and giving it to the largest and most efficient carrier there. We are currently Blue Cross's third or fourth largest client for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Massachusetts on our size. Blue Cross, we meet on a regular basis with their CEO, we're so large, and he gets to hear directly what you're communicating to me. We get to communicate that to the Blue Cross CEO, and that kind of leverage and power we really value.
Well, I would be willing to accompany you to that. So, are there any other questions?
This was helpful.
Thank you for your
though. It was
time. Yeah,
very-
very
It was
helpful.
very helpful.
We are in a predicament. So we certainly appreciate your time. I know it was a ride for you. But important for us because we definitely have some choices to make. But we definitely look forward to, seeing what you have given Ken for us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a safe ride. I think we'll finish the meeting. It's just the vacancy update, which was, just to make sure everyone knows.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just making sure everyone knows what has been planned out for our resignation of our Blackstone member. We did submit the notification to the Board of Selectmen on April 6th, the Tuesday. The position has been posted. It is posted on the town site or on our site. And you have to submit a letter of interest to
Town Administrator's Office.
Town Administrator's Secretary, and her email address is on the posting. The closing date for that is tomorrow.
At noon.
At noontime, and, thank you. And we have a scheduled joint meeting for our Blackstone members with the Blackstone Board of Selectmen on April 26th at the Blackstone Town Hall, 7:30
That's
PM.
Georgette, myself, and Wendy.
Right.
It's
So
vital for us to be there, to have a vote.
it is vital because it's actually going to be 3 of you, 4 of them.
Yeah.
So this is a 5-member committee.
Yeah.
So, we look forward to having a new member and being able to work cohesively. So that was just an update on there. So now we're going to move back to consent agenda A. Does anyone have any questions on the open vacancy?
No. Oh,
And Georgette, are you able to be there April 26th? And Bill?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to consent agenda A, warrants, use of facilities, field trip requests, minutes of meeting for March 24th. We definitely have a field trip request, and I think there might have been, there is another one
Another
too.
one.
The
Walden
Walden Pond Cemetery. Jane, are you gonna chaperone that one?
Sure.
And the minutes, like I said, for March 24th. What is the pleasure of the committee to vote on consent agenda A or to break?
Yeah,
it
the
down?
whole thing.
Move to
Move.
approve the whole thing.
Motion
Second.
made by Bill, second by Jane. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you. And now we will catch up with ourselves to the report of the superintendent, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vanaco. First, in your packet again is another copy of the document, the facilities overview that was done on both JFK and AFM as well as the high school. We have certainly let the town boards know that we have done the preliminary studies, and we look forward to continuing those discussions about our long-term planning and long-term maintenance of our infrastructure, certainly around those three schools. And so if it is the committee's pleasure, we could certainly post those
Yeah,
on the website.
if you could run, I would like you to talk about them and.
Sure.
Just, these were pretty in-depth,
Yep.
so.
And these highlight the areas that we need to look at. There are not dollar figures attached to them, but the New England School Development Council did both of these overview profiles of the high school and of the JFK and AFM, and they really did a thorough job of stating what is the makeup of these buildings, and right down to how the space has been currently utilized. And then they go into an analysis of the physical condition of these buildings. As everyone knows, the high school opened in 1970, so that building is 46 years old. The John F. Kennedy School opened in 1965, and that was the first new building and schoolhouse in town in over 100 years. These buildings have much of the original equipment and infrastructure and building systems in them. The glass is the same as when it was installed. The heating and ventilating systems are the same that were installed. The elevator and lifts, the same as they were installed. So certainly, I applaud the town's foresight on the roofs, because now we have that. Usually that is the very first phase of building reconditioning, but we have a lot of work still to do to continue to protect the investment of these schools in the long term. We all know what new high schools cost, and that is certainly beyond the realm for the district and for the taxpayers and for the towns. But we feel that we could renovate the high school for a far more modest amount that would continue to give us a safe and effective learning environment for our kids for the next generation. And that is certainly the goal. There is plumbing, there is wiring. It's almost every building system within these schools that needs to be updated and or replaced. I know firsthand the high school, where some of our wiring capabilities don't allow us to put what a modern office or a modern classroom needs to run with, and causes us disruption both at the business office side as well as within our educational facility. We certainly have offices and classrooms that are very difficult to regulate, and it can be very cold one day and very warm the next, and that is a challenge. I think I mentioned a while back that our elevator at the high school, which is an original piece of equipment. When it breaks, there's no place for parts because the company's long out of business. And that is a piece of that building that must operate and must be maintained. There are other pieces behind this, certainly, when we renovate a school, that are the dates of the original equipment of these buildings. If the renovation exceeds, I believe it's 30% of the assessed value of the schools, then we have to comply with all of the access, disability, and safety requirements. And while some of those can be granted variances, that is also a big concern as the towns look to plan for this. But I think that, as they say at the back of these reports, that this is a starting point for the discussion of where we want to go with our facilities. I believe that they have captured the essence of these schools and what is in front of us. I use the analogy of our own places of work and our own homes. We don't have building systems in our own homes and our own offices that are this original and this old. Primarily because it's just not effective, it's not efficient, and it's not a good use of money to maintain buildings and systems that are this old. More and more things break, but you can't plan for them, so it causes a disruption. And we have plenty of experience. So what I like to do, and I certainly told the town boards and finance committees that we would be bringing these forward after town meetings and once we set next year. Certainly, Massachusetts School Building Authority would be the first place to go for reimbursement, and the grants that we get from those certainly defrayed a big chunk of the roof projects. About 57% of that cost was borne by the state, and that school building authority receives a lot of its funding directly from a penny on the state sales tax. So that is probably a similar reimbursement rate that we would look at. So if it was a $20 million price tag, then that would be about $12 million that MSBA would pick up and about $8 million that the towns would have to finance. We certainly would look at this in tandem with our capital costs that we are continuing to pay down. Certainly the middle school has only a few more years left on that bond. We also have the sewer, and we just bonded the roofs. So those are the current capital costs, but I know that while the numbers seem large, the longer that we put this off, we have a twofold mission, and that is to maintain the safety and the efficiencies of the schools, as well as a number that will only increase, if for nothing else than inflation. So I think that, and it's certainly a year or so in the planning to submit our statement of interest to MSBA, and then to finance. So you're probably looking at a 2-year timeframe, conservatively, to be able to affect this. So I think that planning should take the next step from these overviews of what's in front of us, and then have the discussion. Certainly when we built, I served on the building committee and chaired Medway School Committee when we built the new Medway High School. And that takes a huge effort to educate all of the stakeholders to be able to understand what costs will be and what should be a part of those projects and what are nice to haves and maybe don't need to be in those projects. But certainly I think we really have to move forward, certainly with the next steps, which is to analyze what would be the scope of the project, and then to get engineering studies that would attach dollars to how much would it cost to replace all of the glass in these buildings with high efficiency, high energy savings glass. What would it cost to renovate through all of the HVAC systems? What would it cost to update our science labs and to improve our offerings of the brick and mortar to improve our education? So those are the pieces that an engineering study would do to be able to put together a hard number that what these improvements would be like.
So,
And-
I'm sorry,
go
go ahead, Jane.
Is the cost of that, at what point, do we pull the towns in? Is the cost of an engineering study a school committee cost? Is it a town cost? Do we have the avenue for a joint committee of both towns and school committee members to, because it seems like we have some really relevant information in front of us. We have some critical things that need to happen, as you've just said, a time frame to move forward, because this stuff is breaking down and we can't fix it anymore, type of thing. But I think we need to get the towns invested in this from the get-go. Do we have an avenue for a joint, kind of essentially a building committee? That's not just school committee, and then the same thing that Aaron shared with us today about our budget, we go, okay, we have a capital campaign of, $20 million, and get the ha. I think we've got to get the towns invested in this.
I mean, I think my thought on that is I was going to say something similar in terms of our time frame needs to be quick.
Yeah.
I think when we start to decompress after the town meetings, I think our first meeting in June needs to be putting the budget to bed, and we have to create a real time frame around when we're going to do this. Because if we miss the January window again for statements of interest to do science labs, then we got 3 years out. Okay, so any freshman that's going into high school, you can forget about seeing them in science lab. So we're behind the 8 ball already. We need to have a hard calendar that we're going to stick to and drive.
I agree.
To move forward, and we invite the towns in, and we say these are the timeframes. And I don't know what the pros and cons are of chunking this over. All right, we're going to do statement of interest in January for science labs, so they can be done the following year. The following year we're going to do for HVAC. I don't know if we do that or all ball of wax. I don't really know what the best course of action is. But you know what? By July 15th, we need to have a clear calendar about what we're going to do, because there is no longer.
I
Because
agree.
what would happen if the elevator just would not work anymore in the high school? What would the consequences be?
Well, first of all, any students who access the elevator in a wheelchair would not be able to. Certainly, building codes require it for safety and for access, and we run the risk of having to deal with that. So the
Are there
bottom line,
fines? Are there
well, the
fines?
bottom line is they
I think we
could.
paid a fine, didn't we?
That was for an inspection.
That was for, I guess, a couple years
But-
ago, a missed
That was a
inspection.
hefty fine for an inspection. I can't
was,
imagine what
yeah.
the fine would be
For
if we had
an
non-functioning
unfunctioning.
elevator.
Right.
Well, that would be an ADA.
Yeah,
You're saying
violation,
ADA.
absolutely.
So there's no more hole. There's no more fingers to put it in the holes of this dam. There really isn't. It's now or never. And I don't know how. I mean, so anyone wants to look at this. Any normal person would look at this and say, "Oh my God,"
Right.
And I can't take the finger out of the dam and point it at anybody, because that's not fair either.
No.
We just can't delay another year. That's all. We need to have a
It's
hard
time.
calendar by
It's
July.
time.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, and we've been dancing around this for years. And
Correct.
We said, let's put a facilities manager, facilities committee.
We need to put the money.
It's a big number, gets
Yeah.
pushed aside, and another year rolls by, and you're right.
Well, how many
that's
years did we
why
do the roof?
We are where we are.
At least 5 years we delayed that roof with a patch.
Yep.
So, Alan, what would the cost of an engineering study be?
For these, if we put the high school as one and JFK primarily with also some overlap with AFM, you're probably looking, the last time I was involved in it, it was around $50,000 to do an engineering study.
And you're saying that could be both?
No, that would be each. Maybe a little less for JFK, but certainly to get one of repute
Yeah.
that would have a decent ability to project costs and show the benefit and the analysis, it's probably, somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 for each one of those engineering
Right,
studies.
And just so, for clarity, the high school is a regional.
Yes.
We take care of that. Would the AFM and the complex be the Blackstones?
I would think that's how the lease is written. But certainly, the goal from the engineering study would be to have enough detailed information that you could take that and write a scope of work and bid the
Right,
project to
right.
know what you're getting done for. And I
Yeah,
think
I think you
MSBA
would-
would also factor into that because they want to see that, so they know what their share is. And so, and there's so many different pieces of this study, you really need to have a reputable engineering company that can break down all of the different pieces to these buildings, systems.
Well, there are some estimated costs on here.
How would we,
Yeah, but
how would
from
we
a
allocate
ballpark.
that money?
I know.
How would we
Very
get
high,
that
though.
money allocated? Does that have to be at a town meeting? Does it have to be, because again, I'm thinking of calendar, and if we're already missing this town meeting,
Right.
do we have to call a special town meeting for that, or is that something we can just co-organize with the town and say, listen, we're gonna do the committee's gonna take care of the high school, you need to take care of the complex, I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that, obviously, to get the town boards and interested taxpayers and voters on a committee to do the due diligence, to set the timeline, as you mentioned, and then to understand what the next pieces have to be within that timeline is critical.
Yeah.
And obviously, we would rely upon working with both towns' Board of Selectmen's to make sure that we would proceed in the highest spirit of cooperation.
Yeah. I mean, I think that has to be part of July too. We gotta appoint a building committee, then and there, and ask for volunteers from each town and people from this committee, and then move forward, because it's gonna be a year-long process.
Right. And certainly, I would be willing to think that there are engineers in town that would want to serve on this committee, that would be able to lend their expertise to understand and help in the process to get the right scope written on an engineering study, so that, because that is critical to move forward with financing, with planning.
Absolutely.
So you really need to have that phase done, but it probably would start with some very strict guidelines and timeframes so that you could get townsfolks together along with committees and boards to be able to serve on that building committee.
It's definitely going to be a process.
Yes. Yes.
But I agree with Bill.
But one we
that's
need to
very
start.
important.
Yeah, one we need to start. We just-
I think it
We
has to
just
be
can't,
mandatory for July.
we just can't say, yeah, we gotta do it. We gotta,
We've been saying that for five,
Yeah. Yeah.
For a long
Steve's
time.
been here for 8 years, I've been here for 3, so every year we say it.
yeah.
And I'm just thinking, it's not that much different. Look at Longfellow School at Millville. Same thing there. I mean, we don't vote there anymore because it's in such rough shape. But there is no plan. We
Right.
just moved it and we stuck a Band-Aid.
They've had
and
their
crossed
engineering
our
plan.
fingers, but,
They do have, they're further along than we are.
yeah.
They did have analysis of the building, and maybe it's called something else, but they have the cost. So,
And where'd the money come from to pay for that engineering, do you know?
The money we gave him back a couple of years ago.
I'm not going to. Go ahead.
The other piece of it too is that I think, most folks in the trades would say that it's easier and in the long term more cost efficient to build new, but I believe
Yeah.
that's really not an option.
Why?
And
We just
Why?
put roofs on it.
primarily
Yeah.
because we've put roofs on it,
Same roof.
No.
Build underneath it?
and the bones of these schools are still with plenty of useful life. And so I believe that by getting, and these renovations are not easy projects to coordinate. However, if they are planned properly and financed properly, they will generate a huge bang for the investment, because then you have schools that are healthy and safe and function as educational institutions for another 30 or 40 years. And I think that's that would be the goal.
So, Bill, what are you saying we need to start by July 1st?
I think June, we have to discuss and invite people to form a building committee, whatever time frame that is. In July, we have to have a very clear calendar that's going to cover the next 12 months with monthly tasks, every single month that we have to complete to bring this to fruition. Because the January, I keep thinking of January because that's when, I remember with the roofs, we had to get those statement of interest in by January to even be considered for the following year, right? So we really can't wait another January to get something done. We need to get something in this January. I don't know what that something is. I would always go for science labs, okay? Because that's a quick bang that we can get, that we're already building an infrastructure of academics at the high school. I mean, reading this thing, there's one gas line, and there's only one lab that with a conjoined class space with no doors. You know, it's not great, and if we're going to continue to compete, that's what we're going to have to do. So, but I think every month there has to be a task.
But I think if you get an engineering study, both facilities, or three facilities, whatever, however you want to split JFK,
Two roofs,
AFM.
that's what I said.
But, yeah, there you go. That's the whole bang for the whole buck, and then you can split it out and say, well, you know, obviously, science lab is priority, whatever, or, you know, HVAC or whatever. But I think the engineering study itself encompasses essentially everything that this.
Right. And I don't know how quickly that can get done. What's your experience with that?
It can be quick once you get to that phase. The other consideration is that we really don't have the flexibility to do the work during school.
Right, right.
You know, it really has to be done in the summer. You can certainly start some of the work in March, April after 4 o'clock. You can certainly finish it in the fall after 4 o'clock. And that's been my experience. The other piece of it is that it's always easier to put this as one project.
Right.
And not do
Chunk it.
Yeah.
not do chunks for many, many reasons. But certainly, the financing, as long as the bond market stays where it is, we don't want to lose that competitive edge going forward. We also want to make sure that we plan it so that we don't impact our current instructional time. So that within these schools, we really have to make sure that the work is done very specifically, probably over 2 summers for sure.
Can part of the pricing and the funding go towards pods? Because I remember when Sutton did their whole
Yep.
remodel,
Yep.
they had pods there that I was in that were better than the school. The actual pods.
portables, yeah.
Portables.
Yeah.
So is that part of the cost if we wanted to do it, if we wanted to get this thing completed, not be after 4, before, you know,
Right.
that type of thing? Can that be part of the cost? And we don't need to hash this
Yeah,
out now.
and that I don't know the answer to, but we'd have to look at that in consulting with that MSBA,
Okay.
because
So
they would be the partner.
What I'm
years of
going to
high
do
school
is,
There's not a lot
for
of
the
It's 580.
May 26th meeting, Alan,
Okay.
because I figure that will, A, give you time, and if you could bring us an engineering study information, cost, time, and we can go
Financing,
from there.
yeah.
So that would be May.
Is it like a 3-bid thing too? I mean, you have that in there, have
Yeah.
that information in there.
Find out if the
Are you
bids-
going to be able to get that done while you're working real hard on the budget as well?
Yeah, May 26th is your
Yeah,
town
it-
meeting.
You're really
might
cracking the
be-
books hard right there.
Fairly aggressive, but there's maybe pieces of it that we can get done by
I
then.
mean, I was saying June because I wanted to get through town meeting.
That's what I mean.
Okay,
On the
I
other
was
side of
only
the town
asking
meeting.
just for
Background
info.
information on that.
Yeah.
information. But if you want to move it to June 9th,
No,
we can.
I'm
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
if.
No,
June 9th?
Well, I think you probably need time to digest what happened at the town meetings a little bit
Correct.
too, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is, it's separate from budget, but the only thing is on June 9th, I put, just a reminder to talk about building committees. I don't see how we can do that. How can we form building committees if we don't know?
I think we can form the structure of it. I think we form the structure. This way we want 3 Millville people, 4, or 3 Blackstone people, 3 of us. I think the structure we can build, but I do think time is ticking. So I think by July 15th, if we don't have a plan in place of what the monthly tasks are going to be over the next 12 months,
We need to know
we're
money,
behind.
expenses.
It's going to be a lot. That's all I really need to know at this point. It's going to be $20 million.
So June 9th,
That one word or two, a lot.
we'll talk about building committees.
I always
and-
misspell that. I don't really
I,
know.
all the time, I go, let the machine do it.
So not May 26th, June 9th.
6-9.
Same thing. I know, it's a lot, a lot.
June 9th.
They gave us this because we said yes.
And that's just gonna be costs, timing,
Time frame.
timeframe for their
Yeah.
actual, I hope it doesn't take as long as it took to get this, because that would put us past January.
Yeah.
So we need, efficiency there too. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, and also in the packet, we can certainly put up the 3-year plan, and Dr. Thompson will speak on the technology later.
Well, just based on this information, our 3-year plan is
Renovating our-
missing
Will-
stuff.
Will
So,
have to be
yes.
updated,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
3-year plan.
Just to give a quick transportation update, Mrs. Cobb did a fine job getting the bids corralled, and we went out to bid for the next 3 to 5 years of our transportation, and bids were opened on April 6th, and we received 1 bid returned, which is our current and longtime vendor, Telstone, and we looked at that and then had a subsequent follow-up meeting with the vendor, with Telstone, this past week to look at ways to reduce that price of that contract. And when Mrs. Cobb and myself will be, and Dr. Thompson will be meeting with them to follow up what they come back with. The goal would be to have that information to the committee so that you could approve a subsequent contract at the April 28th meeting. And so we are working to do that, and we hope that we can get good news from the ideas that we've given to our vendor to be able to reduce the costs in that bid. It's sometimes difficult when you only have one that comes back. To compare and to go out and rebid it is certainly not without its tribulations, because if you only get one back and it is higher, then you are in another challenging position. So our hope is that we have that bid information to the committee for your consideration April 28th. Also, and thank you to Mrs. Cobb for staying and being here tonight throughout. She enclosed the third quarter revenues and expenditures through 3/31, and I think that we are in good shape, as you will see. Obviously, in a school budget, it's hard to predict every single line, but we still show at the end of page 2 on the expenditure report that we have $132,098 that is in our remaining balance, that is unencumbered. And so as we spend down this year, we are past the April 1st deadline for special ed changes. We are past the worst of our utilities and no more snow. So we should be in good shape down the stretch. And I think that it has been certainly a steep learning curve for Wen, but she has managed all of this in outstanding fashion. It's been a busy year with all that is going on. Our revenues, I believe we are in good shape, and we didn't get great news out of the House 1 budget yesterday, but for next year. But I think for this year, currently, our revenues will sustain us, and our expenditures are in line. and certainly Wen is here. If you have any comments or questions, she would be happy to, if not get the answer right now, get back to us tomorrow with it, so.
Not really a question, more of a request. I'd say as a sign of respect for Wen and what she does, can we have her sit up here? Going forward.
Give her a seat.
She's part of us. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a, one of the legs of the
Part of our
stool. Can we
team,
put her
yeah.
up here as a sign of respect for her,
Thank you.
you know?
That would be up to the committee, I think.
We'll just need an extra table.
We can make our,
Yeah,
We can
we
make
can
it
make
work.
our table
I'll move
wide.
down.
long
I
as
feel
Sit
bad
right
seeing you
here.
sitting out there.
Come right here. I know
on.
she won't want to sit. I'll go way over there.
We get close.
I'll rotate
I don't think
down.
we need to vote
No,
on
you're not
that.
leaving
Yeah.
me.
You can just, the open invitation, and just remember you're on camera. Any other questions, Steve?
Not at all, that's all right. I don't know why that popped into my head. I'm like, why is she out there?
I have a question, the subline,
Mm.
maybe it's not a when, yeah, the negative,
Yeah, I have updated the overspending areas in the last quarterly report. That's the long-term leave, teachers, subs.
but just remind me, the encumbered is part of the negative?
Yes.
Okay. And so, did we move money for that ELL teacher? Or are we seeing a negative here for that as
You're
well?
seeing a
It's a negative.
You didn't move anything, okay.
Yes.
So actually, even with that negative balance on substitutes,
Mm.
we're still only about at the salary of the ELL? 50 cents, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
School budgets take constant monitoring, and it's something that if you don't look at them each week, you really have so many pieces that shift off of the jigsaw puzzle. So she has done a terrific job in learning the nuances and managing it.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the organization. Easy to understand.
And last on my report is an update on my performance goals, the SMART goals, as we call them. And just to start the year, we did this, actually, we did this at the end of October, early in November. And all of us in the profession know that we have a professional practice goal and a student learning goal, and then district-wide goals. So I have 3 there. I guess I am not, upon reflection, not thrilled with where I am at the middle of April. So I look forward to, as we get through town meetings and my schedule opens up just a little bit, that I can report back in June that we're making progress. Certainly, I have my Twitter account set up. Dr. Thompson has been a stern taskmaster.
So one of my questions is, why did you choose Twitter? Is that a preference of?
It's quick and easy.
No, Twitter is, well, it's a preference of Dr. Thompson, but it's also, I think, a preference of most administrators.
Any educational leader in
Yeah,
the state.
Exactly. And Pat Larkin, who is the assistant superintendent in Burlington, is one of the gurus around technology, and he says he spends about 30 minutes a day, every morning, managing his Twitter.
Tweeting?
Reading or
15
tweeting?
15
Tweeting.
minutes in the morning,
Yep.
15 minutes midday, 15 minutes. at
Reading
night.
them or sending them?
So part of what makes Google so interesting for education is that it allows you to set up your blog as well. So again, between Dr. Thompson and Mr. Gonzalez, they have a big project managing me in the technology world that we are in. But both of those I look to
So where do you have your blog? Google?
implement.
Is that what you just said?
You can set
It's
it up
actually,
through- set it up through.
yeah,
Google.
I think it's actually, I think there's actually an icon that's on the main page near my
Yeah.
icon, so.
But
It's pretty simple, you basically.
But I would say that I'm behind in that goal, and would look to speed up the pace during the
So we
second
would
half
encourage
of the
people to
plan.
follow your Twitter feed?
Yep.
And blog.
Yeah, how do
And
you
blog.
promote yourself on Twitter? Just curious.
No, you don't, you have to.
Next time we have an
surgery.
open meeting, we'll do a workshop, and I'll do a complete workshop
Okay.
on it for you, if you like.
Yep.
Bill's,
I mean,
Bill's pretty
There are
good.
people that I've had in my professional learning network for 3 years, that are Twitter rock stars, and I have instant professional development when I connect with them, and 3 of them I've yet to meet, and they all live in the state. It's just, it's the next wave. I'm not kidding around. I'll do a workshop for everybody in
That'd be
in this room, if you
I was
want.
saying, because I have an IEP for technology, so I can use your.
Yes.
I have an
But,
account, does that count for anything?
but utilized properly, it
It has a
pays
little egg in the
tremendous
picture. It does not
dividends,
count.
as
Okay, let me
Dave,
see.
as Dave continues to preach to me. The student learning goal, we certainly are, as you heard earlier from our students, adding additional AP courses, and we're also enrolling more students who are willing to challenge themselves and who may not think of themselves as AP students, but can do the work, and we are encouraging them to do that. Part of our measurements that we have looked at, DDMs and the Fontes and Pinnell results, I will not have until the end of the school year, so that will be for the next quarter to increase that piece of that student learning goal. The district improvements, I think I fared a little better, but I certainly had a lot more help. And around the district improvement, number 1, Dave has done an outstanding job. We're fortunate that we have Dave, Dr. Thompson, who has taught math and who knows it and knows curriculum, along with technology. And we obviously had a little bit of startup angst with folks, but I think that if you look at the students now, they are managing this program and this technology and this curriculum phenomenally. And to see first graders balancing equations and really stepping up and knowing what they're doing is huge. So I believe that we are in great shape as we look to increase envisions in 6th grade. And I think that will pay tremendous dividends. We have supported all of our technology initiatives, and I applaud Osiris Gonzalez for being able to manage that along with Dave and Brad Monroe to be able to fund it without going through a capital request. And I think that the E-rate program, we were one of the first districts to really understand the new changes in that program. And $140,000 later, we are in good shape. And that's the grant, the E-rate 50%. As you see here, the wireless project will finish up soon, hopefully by the end of the school year. Google School, which I mentioned, we are still tweaking the website, Mrs. Larkin. I know that concerned, but we're getting there. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done as we fine-tune that. But I think that the technology, and this is something that most folks know, technology is no longer residing in big machines and hardware. And to be able to use it, and certainly our students know it, to be able to use it for learning is where we want to go. And I think we are well on our way to rolling this out. Certainly, we hope it doesn't meet any roadblocks as we go forward, because it's a huge piece of retaining students, attracting students, and increasing our achievement. And technology becomes a tremendous piece of that. Number 3, increasing our special education student scores. Little did I know when I wrote this goal that in 3 weeks we would be changing from MCAS to PARC. And so that will obviously be a tough goal and probably will be rewritten, because the PARC results, certainly in the first year or 2, will be very difficult to calibrate against MCAS. And so I'm going to have to rethink this as we certainly don't have the same baseline data. Not to say that PARC was not the right decision, because it was, because it gives us a totally unaccounted for or unaccountable status to be able to see what our students are learning, what our teachers are instructing, and I think it will be, as the state develops the test, will be the right way for us to go, along with the state. We certainly have some concerns around the co-teaching model, and we are looking to make sure that we can implement that going forward. We had the Walker School come in to provide collaboration on our professional development day around setting goals and expectations on our separate classrooms, that we think we can maintain these inclusive settings to be able to allow our students to learn in the least restrictive environment, which is their home district. And that is something that we are continuing to move through in a learning year, but I think it's a very important piece of that as we go forward. So between ramping up a couple of these goals with a little more effort, and as the workload lightens a bit, and to rethink some of the goals that changed dramatically, I look forward to my next update to the committee.
I think we do need to set a date for the correction on number 3, though, just so we know what, you know what you're working towards. It, not something.
Let's go for the 28th of April, 2 weeks.
And where do we stand on co-teaching? How many setups do we have?
We currently have 2 classrooms at each grade level. So there's one special ed teacher working with 2 classroom teachers.
One special ed. How is that working in Millville with 1 second grade?
Basically you have, in Millville, because it's smaller, you have a special ed educator working with multiple grades.
And is the plan, based on what you wrote here, about the co-teaching model was not understood and implemented well due to less cooperative efforts, is our plan to continue?
Yeah, we can't, I mean, yes. Yeah, the simple answer, the simple answer is yes, we need to continue. You know, and part of it is changing a mindset. You know, co-teaching is a method of doing inclusion. It is not where both teachers are responsible and plan together. That is the only difference. So the tripping point has been, you know, is there enough time for them to plan together and enough time for them to have common prep periods? And again, this goes back to staffing and funding.
And scheduling.
Staffing and funding influences scheduling, which then
continuity.
Right. So, you know, part of the mindset issue is you don't necessarily need to have the person co-teaching with a particular teacher the entire day. They could be there for certain classes and be in another room for another, as long as you have time to plan. So it basically, there's several things that need to happen. One is getting out and seeing what the practices are in the classroom. The other is looking at the schedule. You know, I mean, right now, having those 3 teachers to kind of loosen things up in the elementary school is not in the budget. So in some cases, we're going to need to look at caseloads and maybe having, you know, certain special ed kids in certain classrooms. Maybe it's only 1 classroom at a different grade level. Those are all yet to be determined. But, you know, I mean, and the research is out there. The Department of Ed did a study 2 or 3 years ago about special ed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it is and by a nationally known gentleman out of Harvard, who, hands down, without repute, the best place to have our students is in a regular classroom with support, accessing the content and the curriculum that is expected for them to pass.
With their peers.
With their peers as models. So that needs to happen. Otherwise, you're pulling kids out, they don't have models, they're not getting quality curriculum because they're not in the classroom with them, and they are falling behind. So it's not a question of if we're going to continue, it's a question of how best to make the next step.
And when you pull out, achievement is harder to define and harder to understand and harder to get to.
For special ed students.
Yes.
How is it for regular ed students?
I'm
No
sorry, I
different?
didn't follow the question.
No different?
No, it should not,
No
if it's
different
done
at all.
well, it
Should
should
not
not
be
be,
different,
it should
right?
not be
Yeah.
different. It should not be
In some
different.
cases, enriches.
Should be better.
Right.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyone else have questions?
Just in general, you know, Bill and I know this because we're plowing through binders, et cetera, all this kind of stuff. I think just we need to see some of the actual evidence. You know, this is, all of it is kind of, it's good, but it's kind of vague and it's kind of general. I think we need, you know, hard evidence and maybe some more hard numbers. One of the things I'm thinking about with APs, I know Griffin was talking about how the kids are all studying for their AP exams. Maybe this is for next year, maybe put a line in there on the success rate on the AP exams, not just number of kids in APs, but how are they doing? You know,
Yeah, somebody have 3 or above.
something like that.
Will do.
Any other comments, questions? No? Thank you very much for that, Alan.
And that ends my report.
They're done, you can leave now.
I want to stay. I want to go home too early tonight.
Moving on to report of the Assistant Superintendent.
Yes, in front of you have the next draft, or the next updated draft of the technology plan. Mr. Gonzalez and I did do a little reorganizing, a little adding in of things, and the goals and objectives are pretty similar. Resources is basically, I think there's the last paragraph talking about the older iPads might be new. New software, added to that the last 3, Microsoft Office, Adobe Licensing, and Dameware are new additions to that piece. New hardware, I'm pretty sure that is the same. When we get to professional development, the new website in X2 under the professional development piece were added in. And the multi-year blueprint, a couple things were added were the security system. We need to spend some time with that over the next few years. And then the continued investment in Fallen Aspect, which is our student information system. We are expanding the use of that, so it's doing more and more. That's where our curriculum mapping is happening as well, but we need to make sure that we're keeping up with that. And there are incremental costs for reorganizing, adding new modules, but you know, and credit to Osiris, he's pretty nifty. He has discovered a user group for Aspen, and he has discovered a colleague who works in another district who used to work for Aspen Programming, and we sent him over there for part of the day learning how to add on a piece into our SIS, mainly to track ELL progress and ELL students. So instead of it costing us about $10,000, it cost us half a day without having the big O around. But other than that, you know, so these are the kinds of things we need to be doing, you know, to look at that and maximize our knowledge. So he learned a whole bunch, and we have. He's taking our database manager, Betty Gaines, with him next week after we come back. I think the Monday after we come back, another user group talking about the new requirements for exchanging information with the state and what have you, and how that is going to work with Aspen. And again, being ahead of it, lowering the costs that we're paying Follett, but also being proactive and getting ready for it. So the last page, which is the page everybody gets interested in, is the projected costs. And again, I call this a draft because I do expect that to change. I'm hoping to finalize it again in June once the budget is done. We can kind of get some hard numbers in there. And you'll see on the bottom software improvements. You see Microsoft licenses put in there. That is one thing that we forgot. And I believe we did another, I know we did another assessment of the interactive whiteboards, and those are projectives, are actually interactive projectors for that. And again, as I think I mentioned before, I mean, it's great that we have smart boards in every classroom in this district. The problem is they were all put in within the same year or two, which means they're all aging at the same time. So we need to get on a replacement schedule, which that represents. So I don't know if there's any questions on that.
So my first
There-
question, sorry, oh, go ahead, Jane.
Just kind of thinking ahead,
9:30, closing.
is there a way to project some of this or put some of this into this building design that we're talking, like, I'm thinking the phone system. You know, if we're
Mhm.
going to do a big engineering study, can
See if it crosses
perhaps we
over.
incorporate some
Yeah,
of
a
that
lot
kind
of, I mean, a lot of the new high schools, you know, put technology into that.
Into their, right.
But, you know, a lot of them are brand-new high schools when they
Right.
do that.
Right.
You know, we are already making the investment in the infrastructure
Right.
network, which is ongoing, we'll pick up again during April vacation. But hopefully, you know, maybe we could put the projectors for the high school in that, but it has to be for that building. that we
Correct.
do. So, I mean, the hope is to have the voice over IP phone system throughout the entire district. Everything's hooked together,
The whole
so
point.
we could get, you know, 3 out of the 5 schools, but not
Right.
5 out of the 5
Right.
schools. So,
Huh.
again, those numbers might change depending on
Sure.
how we do things. But yes, definitely.
On the multi-year blueprint, you mentioned security systems. I've been thinking about that lately. Just discussions about building safety and such, but I'm surprised there aren't, and maybe they're out there, and are there any grants we can go after for things like that? I really thought after Sandy Hook, there were, you know, like the school resource officer is coming in, and are there any options for us to get help with implementing?
Not that I'm,
There's
surprising.
fewer.
Not that
and-
we qualify
but There's
for it.
fewer and
There's
fewer.
there's some immediately afterwards, but that money's gone.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I know it right after, we talked
Right,
about putting
And there are.
new doors in hallways and,
Yep.
Yep.
There are some small grants out there. Again, we're not rich enough, we're not thin enough, we're not tall enough, we're
so
not
it's at
short
our
enough.
expense.
Yeah.
So it would be,
But it could
it'll
be a capital
challenge.
expense. Yeah.
Right, but it
Right.
is
That's-
important, I'm
see,
glad
that's
you
what I
put that
thought.
on there. I'm glad you added the safety, because, the security system, sorry,
Yeah.
because to me it falls under safety.
And just to answer a general question, we did look, and I say we, you know, with the administrative team, Brad Monroe, the principals at the elementary schools, and myself, did look at a extended learning time opportunity grant, 21st century grant. Went through the whole process, you know, started filling out the paperwork, looking at it, and it was a competitive grant, and we just barely met the minimum. And the priority was going to be level 4 and 5 districts, and those that had higher economically disadvantaged, we just barely made the 34 or 35%, where we're going to be competing up against districts that have 45 and 50%. So, again, we're not, you know, you know, for a lot of these, we're not poor enough to get them. And
But I
you
also
know,
think that, just not to interrupt you, Dave, but at least for the complex, there's untouched money there every single year that we don't utilize from the town of Blackstone and maintaining that building. And we gotta start listing things out there, and why wouldn't we wanna do a door? Or, you know, something like that. You know, as well as,
Or
the.
an engineering study.
Right, or,
there
or
you go.
quite honestly, there's $50,000 out there for a green grant. I've said it 50 times already, that Blackstone would not have the green grant if Perry Davis didn't sign off on it. So that's also out there. So there's money out there. We just have to give them a list of what we want them to do for the complex. We just have to kind of complete the list and get it going.
So just quick update, the middle school math pilot is going to start after vacation, as is, now we were piloting STARS, we did pilot the full version of STARS here at the middle school in March. We were waiting for some computer repairs at the elementary level and the high school. That is done or will be done over vacation. So the plan is to do those STARS pilots. And again, they're small, 60 kids, couple teachers, but to get some initial experience with the full STARS package so that we can make some decisions come this spring.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Next is our last public forum that we will keep moving on to school committee forum. Does anyone want to volunteer to start? Bill?
I'll go, yeah. I want to put a shout out to the high school for today. They had a great career day with a theme of finding your passion, which was great, I thought. And they also had a big AP kickoff, placement kickoff that they did through our massinsight.edu, which is great. And you might wonder how I know that is because I follow them on Twitter. And I see great pictures of activities that are going on, and that's at BMR Go Chargers if people want to follow them. But there are great things that are going on there and throughout the district as well. But a shout out to those guys because they really have carved out a good trajectory of increasing the rigor there, and it definitely has turned around. I know at least one kid, but I think it's turning around many kids to choose BMR, which is what we've been talking about for years. So I give them a shout out, and you can also get great scores of what BMR athletics as well through Twitter. So
Live feed?
I'll actually go over that during your workshop.
That would be great. I would appreciate it. But I just so, you know, I didn't have a plain egg on my Twitter account. We joked earlier, but congratulations to Griffin on his Mr. BMR selection. And, you know, I don't think we say enough about the high school folks. I know they've got a few more meetings with us, but not many. But, you know, they're a tremendous asset to our roundtable here when we meet every other week. And these two in particular, Eric with his commitment through the district, you know, student organization stuff, and Griffin, you know, just as a role model. They're both fabulous young men, and I think we don't acknowledge that enough. And I know there are a lot more like them in our schools, but you know, they're the ones we have contact with, and I hope their parents are really proud of the jobs that they've done. I would like to congratulate the Millville Elementary School 5th grade AOK Club for their collection of toilet paper rolls, and hopefully you all brought your toilet paper, but they collected the most that they've ever done since doing the drive. And so far, I think over the years that they've done it, have given something like 8,000 rolls of toilet paper to the food bank or wherever it gets donated to. So congratulations to them.
I also want to say thank you to Griffin and Eric for all the work and time that they devote over here, and say thank you to the student athletes that were here tonight, and that's all I have.
Similar to what's been said, I always love when the kids come out and they present what they're doing, because that's PR and, you know, advertising for all the good that we do, you know. When you go to the town meetings, you kind of get bashed, but you forget this is what it's about. So it's great to see that. I know we're starting our budget presentations to the various committees and groups and all that, and it's sort of uneven, but, you know, looking forward for everyone's help. And I know we had our first regional agreement meeting. The turnout was not tremendous, but we have some more coming up. Hopefully, we'll see some more people coming there with questions. So that's all.
I know tonight the 8th grade was going to the high school for the guidance for the whole 9th grade stuff, and I guess there were going to be sports and music and other activities in the cafeteria, I assume, hosted by high school kids, so I think that's great. Hopefully, most of the kids get to go. I know they're leaving, as Erin pointed out, for DC tomorrow. So they've got a lot going on.
I'm interested to see the turnout that they might have gotten.
But if they knew sooner than I did, I am guilty of only seeing it today, but I'm not an 8th grade parent. Apparently 8th grade parents have known. So I was a little concerned that it was a last minute event. But it would be nice after the supper with the super we had here, some of the 7th grade parents, even 6th grade parents, are saying, you know, we need to get into the high school earlier. So if we could just make a point to maybe invite all middle school kids to these. They may not need the guidance part, they may choose to sit on that, but at least if they can see the sports and activities, other stuff that the high school offers, be nice.
So I have a few things. First, we need to talk about our April 28th meeting, because it's the same night as National Honor Society. So
Cancel it. Quite honestly, that week, it's gonna be mental.
That's a tough week.
We have negotiations the 27th, we have that.
You have selectmen.
Joint meeting with the
Selectmen, 26th.
selectmen, it's, you know, I'm gonna have to pick two to go to.
And I'm out of town.
And I tell you right now, I will drop this meeting in a second.
But we would have
If I had to pick out of those
but we would
three,
have-
if I had to pick out of those three,
Well, as
We would
we,
have our new person, though.
maybe.
well, the 26th is the vote.
Yeah,
Right,
so
they-
don't they get, that's
No,
their
they're
election,
immediately,
right?
they're,
Yeah.
no, they're immediately on.
They should
They
get
they just
sworn
have to get sworn
and
in the
they-
next day and they can move.
But we are usually invited, we are invited to the Honor Society, and Alan, for sure, and Dave, so, it's, you cancel it or move it, so I say, I don't know what we, well, we just put Alan's SMART goal up
The,
there, but we can move that to.
What
Honor
time is
Society
that?
is at what time?
It's at 7.
NHS is 7.
It's at the
Can we
same
have
time.
can we have a
Can we have
essentially
We're gonna
brief
need to
meeting there at
vote.
6:30?
We're gonna need to vote
6:30, something like
But
that?
what if we don't have a quorum? I don't know. What does that do? If we cancel, what does that do? for-
We meet at 5 at the high school.
Or 6 at the high school, or?
And open it, it's an open meeting, and,
Yeah, we should do closer to this Honor Society.
and then we just walk downstairs to go to the
Yeah.
auditorium.
Yeah.
So
Like
6:45.
Yeah. 6.
I would say 6.
6:30.
If we,
6
if we
o'clock.
need just to vote for a warrant and kind of do it,
That's all we
three
need.
things, and that's it, and then.
And then go to the-
Do it at 6, at the NHS at
Save
7?
some seats for us, and we'll go there.
They usually do.
If you've never been to the NHS induction, it's
It's
great.
very nice.
It's very
Very nice.
Yeah.
kind of moving. It's a
We should be
great thing.
Okay, so,
Alan, you're kind of grimacing. Does that work?
No, it does.
Okay.
I'm just thinking
6
about
or
my speech.
6:30?
Yeah.
I don't think we need 6.
How about 6:15?
6:15.
Oh, good. Okay, that's fine.
And we'll do that.
What's the
You're
difference?
not-
Numerically,
you're
Poker play.
I'll be there.
not- And we'll do that in
half
your
hours.
conference room?
Be able to do it at Mike's.
We'll just pick a spot, I don't know. We can go to the media center, the LMC.
Could do the cafeteria.
We-
It's
we
right
use
there
the-
No,
next to
they'll
the
be setting
auditorium.
up in there, so
Or what? Oh, they have the reception at the
I'll show you.
I'm making that.
Oh, I haven't been in there lately either.
Pick a room, any room.
We can go to LMC.
There you go. Yeah, why not?
They're mobile, they can still
We do
video us.
LMC.
Yeah.
It's
Just
just
walk
a vote
across.
on warrants. I
Yeah.
don't think we need to be
I've
live.
never, I haven't been there in years, so I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
going in there to see.
So at the Learning Center, is that
Doesn't
what you're
change
saying?
much.
Yeah, I know.
Learning Media
That's my
Center.
point. That's why we're getting some video of it.
Okay, so
Like we're videoing all the people who came to-
6:15 at BMR and NHS to follow. So back to, I just wanted to give a quick, we didn't put it on the agenda, but a quick update. We had our first talk and tour for regional agreement on Monday. It was super successful. We had 2 parents attend. One was genuinely there to support and wanted to hear, you know, I think she was hoping people were there talking about,
Their
you know, why
concerns.
not, or why they don't agree with it. It is on video, and it has been playing on on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's on our cable, but we also put up our FAQ sheet that has the general questions that had been brought to us. We answered them as best we could because, you know, some of them actually don't even pertain to the actual setups, but the next one is scheduled for, our next set of regional agreement information is April 21st, 4 PM at the Millville Senior Center. That will be a setup like this. It'll be we have to post it as a meeting because if we're all there, we have to have a public posting. So, you know, we'll conduct it in a question and answer format, you know, giving people a certain amount of time to ask the questions. They're not taking time from everyone that might want to ask a question. And then we'll move over to the Blackstone Library at 6:30 PM for the next one. They're both being videotaped, and they will both be available on YouTube and on Millville and Blackstone Cable. And
But Aaron, if I can add to that, because one of the comments that I've seen since is that, our frequent question doesn't really answer people's questions, and our video of the tour didn't answer people's questions, but if we don't know what the questions are,
Yeah, I
we
think-
can't answer the questions.
Yeah,
So
I'm not
if people
taking-
have questions, they can submit them to us on
Again, it's an empty room,
email.
Jane,
Again,
so,
exactly.
if their questions are that burning, they're going to find us. We've put our email addresses out there. We have, and you know what? I think it's okay for us to start talking to people and saying, how do you feel about it? Because if they're not going to come to me, I don't want them to feel like I didn't come to them.
Right.
I guess. I feel like a little bit of a responsibility there, so I hope everyone else can reach out to their fan clubs and share that
But
great
during the
information.
forums, Erin, there's gonna be some parameters around, if there's a lot of people
Absolutely.
there, there's gonna be some time
Absolutely,
limit.
it has to be.
Someone's not gonna have 30 questions and sit there and ask all 30, they're gonna ask one, and then have someone else come up and go
Yeah.
through it, right?
Yeah,
That kind of
absolutely,
model.
because, keep in mind, we're at Millville at 4 o'clock, and we have somewhere else to be by 6:30. We're not closing up at 6:15, so it's,
And you do have the tour on
you have
May
to
2nd.
get to the point. May 2nd, MES, the doors will be open. We definitely invite any Blackstone, residents that want to see that building that may not have ever. That is the point of the tours, is for the other towns to come in and see the facilities that we have, because even with the age of the buildings, I'm sorry, but I watched that video of that talk and tour, and it still looks spectacular to me. We know what's under the rugs, we know what, we know what is in this report, but it's still bright, sunny, fun environment, and it's worth seeing. I also just want to give a quick shout out to the 8th grade who is leaving for Washington DC tomorrow. And of course, Mr. Cameron, and I don't even know the entourage going with him, but I don't know how they do it without other chaperones. It is teachers and Mr. Cameron, and I'm sure they're going to have a phenomenal time, but enjoy, good luck, safe trip to everybody. And that is all I had. I'm sorry, I have one other thing. Sorry. Millville Centennial Parade is May 1st. We have been told by Margaret Carroll when she came in that we were going to be invited. We've never received a formal invitation. I did speak to Margaret Carroll last week. She told me she was putting it together and mailing to me personally. I still haven't gotten it. So now, with only one meeting before, honestly, I don't know what we would be able to do as a school committee besides March, but
I was gonna say, what
if
what
it's
is she looking
anyone's
for us to
thought,
do?
she
Sit
was,
there
I believe we were supposed to be invited to participate in marching in the parade and representing, so I don't know. Alan received his formal invitation, and he had a choice of marching, viewing stand, or review stand.
Or being in the reviewing stand.
What was the other choice? Grand March? No.
No, those are the only two.
Drive a float.
Those are the only two.
So Alan will be there in the reviewing stand, so.
Good choice.
I know, I have different pieces, my kids are participating in different ways. I've band, Millville Elementary has a float with all the, student body invited. So,
Big float.
No one's watching the parade, they're all
That's
in it.
what I said. I said that at the MESPA meeting. I said, who's watching the parade? They're all marching in the
but
parade.
if you can keep that date open, it's 1 o'clock, I don't know what, if anything. If not, at least come watch, because it's going to be a grand event. And we do need someone to watch. So, moving on, upcoming meetings, you already mentioned some of these. April 26th, most important, a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. Though us Millville members aren't voting, we can still attend in the audience, I'm sure. April 28th, we just moved to BMR, and then the next public meeting would be here, May 12th. And we also had an executive session on the end here, which we do not need, so we will
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, we're 2 minutes
All
late.
in favor?
Aye. Motion made by Bill, second by Jane, and unanimous. Good night, thank you.